to you from the Antonio Cromartie studio in part with Huggies. We had a monster show on Monday that you need to go back and check out if you have not. Great discussion with Les Snead about all things Rams, got inside the Myles Garrett trade and how that came together.
And we got validation.
We did. Validation.
Our theory was proven correct.
We did have some people questioning why we didn't follow up and say, hey, you only have 11 picks in the next couple of years. How are you going to do it this time? We didn't. Well, we'll have to get him back. Yeah. He said he'd come back.
We were working on a timeline with Les.
We were.
Unfortunately, we didn't have him for like an hour.
You only have 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You got to get to the good stuff.
We had a series of pretty big topics we wanted to hit and didn't have much time for digressions.
We're also, despite your master's degree, not exactly seasoned journalists here.
Yeah, very true.
We're still working on it. So room to improve, growth mentality.
No, that's good feedback. Yeah, that was a failing on our part. We feel ashamed.
We'll get better.
We should do better.
Yeah. Next, we're gonna overcorrect next time and be like, John Schneider comes on.
Follow up on everything.
John, tell me about your failed years in 2015.
No, I think the growth here is following. It's the follow up. It's listen to what he said, see the obvious follow up, and get back in there.
And don't be afraid to challenge a little bit. And Aaron Schatz did a really nice job previewing the season, got some sleeper teams and everything with Aaron. So go check out Monday's show if you have not yet. So we're going to hit on some news today. We have a lot of signings since we last spoke, and we've got the training camp hype to buy, sell, and discuss.
Let's go.
Signing-wise. Oh, by the way, so I just got back from Nashville. I did see the Titans at training camp. Do you want to talk about that during camp time?
Yeah.
I don't have much, but I guess there's a couple nuggets.
Nuggets.
There's some nuggets. The biggest signings since we last spoke about this kind of stuff. Zay Flowers, Baltimore Ravens, re-signed. And then 2 running backs, Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor. Taylor just hit this morning with the Indianapolis Colts. And then we've got Stefon Diggs getting signed by the Washington Commanders. Let's start with Zay Flowers. What are your thoughts on Zay and his extension?
Well, people lost their minds because, the contract comes out, and this is the problem with NFL contracts and structures, is people just look at the number, right? And usually it's either the top. People used to look at the top number, right? What is he's getting paid, it's a 5-year, 150, and that was the number they used. Like, wow, that's crazy. Now it's progressed to just the APY, right? How much is he getting on average per year? And that's the number they use. So Zay Flowers' APY is the same as Justin Jefferson's. And people were losing their minds at that because obviously Zay Flowers is not as good a player as Justin Jefferson, even though last year I think his numbers were better because, Vikings, JJ, 9, right? So people were kind of losing their minds at that. It's like, but you're missing the intricacies of NFL contracts where they were already on the hook for a lot of that money because Zay Flowers' 5th-year option is going to be like the biggest of all time because he's got a bunch of Pro Bowls, all that kind of thing. I think his 5th-year option is bigger than Jamar Chase's, who was was he the 5th overall pick? So they were already on the hook for a lot of this money, right? And if you kind of adjust that out and look at the new money that they've added to this contract, it ends up a lot lower than that and therefore a lot more sensible, a lot more palatable.
Definitely some numbers that have Zay looking really good, efficiency numbers and everything. I know low touchdown totals. The fantasy community hasn't loved that over the last couple of years, but he's been a good receiver. We mentioned at draft time, don't know if he was a fit for every offense, but if he went to the Chiefs or if he went to a team like the Ravens, they've done a really nice job getting him into space. He's run routes well and, been a very good receiver at this point. But as the inflated Pro Bowl final year, though, definitely has an impact on how that extension works.
He's been a really good receiver for them. The question is sort of like, it's back to that thing that we've talked about before, which is the only real line to draw anymore between wide receivers is that, high-end X receiver versus everything else, right? Yeah. Everything else is kind of the same. It's just where you're going to put the guy, how much you're going to feed him, how much you focus on him, and how good he is. But the real line is, can your guy play X and do everything independent of the rest of the offense? And obviously, that's where a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson, the answer to that is unequivocally yes. I don't know that the answer to that is yes for Zay Flowers. And so as much as he can put up numbers that may rival those guys, you are much more dependent, therefore, on other elements of the offense, or you need to be placed in a specific role to make that happen. And obviously, the Ravens they're doing that. They're happy to do that because he's a very good receiver and can make a ton of plays for them. But it does make you demonstrably less good, effectively, than a Justin Jefferson, a Jamar Chase. I mean, last season, JSN showed he's yes to that category as well, right? Which would have been a question mark before last year. Can he step into that X role and do everything? The answer is yeah, he can.
Then we get to the Bijan Robinson contract, now the highest paid running back at $22.25 million per year. I know our friend Brad Spielberger had a good take on this, but it had been a while since we saw the monster immediate second contract running back. By the way, he's only 24 years old, and I think that is a factor in this whole thing, Sam. I want to look into it a bit more before we get into Bijan, but I was talking to a former NFL executive last night on my ride home, passing the time, and talking about how some teams really do focus on the age component when it comes to draft prospects and everything. And personally, I haven't looked at it I've glanced at it, but I haven't dug into it from a research perspective where it's like you have to do that. But we know GMs like Andrew Berry in Cleveland, that's clearly a big deal for them to always get younger players. They're younger when you get to the second contract. You have more of a chance to get to the third contract. You might need to be in a place for 10 years to see that come to fruition. But Bijan being on the younger end certainly makes this a lot more palatable than a lot of other running back contracts.
Well, particularly for running backs as well, right? Running backs, you could make an argument that running backs may be one contract players these days in terms of how much usage you get out of them. Like by the time they reach 25, like obviously 30 for a running back is like curtains, but by the time they reach 25, they may have already played their best football, and you may be better off trying to get cheaper and moving in a different direction. So the younger the running back, I think that would be the one position where I'd really focus on age for that kind of impact. Yeah, the Bijan Robinson was interesting. Schefter's tweet initially was two-time Pro Bowl selection Bijan Robinson. The Falcons reached an agreement, a 3-year extension worth up to $75 million. That will now make him the highest paid running back in NFL history. Robinson will receive a record $51 million guaranteed, blah, blah, blah. His follow-up was that Bijan's now the highest paid running back in NFL history, $25 million a year, or $22.5 for him, $20.6 for Saquon, $19 for Christian McCaffrey, which is still the third most from years ago. And so that was the kind of context, right? That's the type of money that we're talking about here. But Brad Spielberger, former colleague, current NFL agent, tweeted out all the recent top deals have been for third contract older running backs. Finally, you've got a young second contract top pick running back with elite production get a deal, and the position market reset is clear. Adrian Peterson's 2011 extension would be worth $35 million per year today. Chris Johnson's $33 million. So as much as Bijan is still like this is the new top of the market, we're highest paid running back ever, it's still lower than it used to be. Like the reset, the devaluation of the position is still evident. Like if you adjust Adrian Peterson's contract for inflation, it's worth $10 million more a year than where Bijan's at.
In the next shoe is Jahmyr Gibbs. Same draft class, similar type of production and feel around the league. You could have a healthy debate about who the best young running back is in the NFL, and you can make a case for Bijan. You can make a case for Jahmyr Gibbs. Mm-hmm. Is he going to be right in that $22 million range? Did he set the market for Gibbs? The one thing I'll say about market reset, I'm not questioning my friend Brad here. He's really sharp with everything. This feels a little similar to me with the cornerback market a few years ago, where it was suppressed, and then you got young elite cornerbacks that hit the market.
Right.
So
that's where that's why Bijan is the.
It still resets it.
That's why McCaffrey is third, right? It's because nobody since then has really been in that world.
So I'm not questioning the way he said it or anything, but I don't know that this necessarily means that, Ashton Genty's automatic. He's going to be making 25 in a couple of years when he's up, or Jeremiah Love's going to be making 25 when he's up in 4 years. We don't know who the next young running backs are necessarily who need to get paid. But Bijan and Gibbs are also, I think, outliers in this. From a youth and production standpoint over the last few years, we haven't had a massive decision on a running back like this in a while, right? Maybe Jonathan Taylor, who just re-upped again today, is the closest thing.
Right, but I think the point is, for this, like Bijan is the first guy to come along for a while, basically since McCaffrey, where this has been a relevant conversation, and that he's obviously the difference between McCaffrey at $19 million a year and Bijan up at $22.5. That's growth, but comparing it back in the day to Chris Johnson, Adrian Peterson, that's where you see the devaluation. That
For sure.
These are the comps, right? The second contract, elite production, high draft pick, first rounders who are like the perfect trajectory. Now it's time to pay that guy. I mean, he's on 10 plus million less a year adjusted for inflation and the salary cap than those guys were.
Yeah, and for the Falcons in particular, we have other news to talk about with the Falcons, with the Jalen Walker injury and Tua expecting to be the starter. The Falcons we talked about as being in a bit of a reset, maybe even more so now with that injury. But they're one of the teams that's blessed with the first contract quarterback and or
Sort of.
Tua being on a less than first contract quarterback, making a little over $1 million this year. But, in other words, they're just not paying the quarterback position. So they're in a spot where they're probably going to draft a quarterback over the next year or two. They're going to be cheaper at that position. And I think the life cycle of the organization matters too, with how you invest in all positions, but particularly in the running back position. So I think this is a good deal for the Falcons.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, why not?
As an analytically sound analyst, we allowed to?
But I think that's, again, it's this world of like analytics, the analytics community, the whatever ridiculous broad strokes you want to paint everything with. Like, everything went too far, right? It's not like running backs didn't matter at all ever, right? Running backs weren't worthless. This idea of running backs don't matter as a pejorative, as just a blanket statement, was always too much. They matter to a degree, but there's other things that matter more. There are things that need to be in place first. There's more nuance to it than that. But like once you've ticked off a bunch of boxes, you can still give a running back decent money, right? The Falcons should have a very good offensive line, whatever at the quarterback, and maybe that's its own problem. But like the offensive line should be good. We've already seen Bijan produce in this environment. He's 24. He's incredibly productive. He catches the football. Brad had another tweet saying he basically puts up wide receiver 2 numbers, at which point there's no reason not to pay him. And again, the reset has happened, so we've already taken it down. Maybe they were overvalued, and we've reduced that. So it's an appropriate amount to pay Bijan Robinson.
And again, you've got the age factor being 24, and I've always been of the mind. I used to think about this with Dalvin Cook. I do, and say Derrick Henry. There are a few running backs who, when you do, there's a little chicken or the egg there. But when you do put them into a good environment, are more on the force multiplier end than just a product of the system. And I think that would be the justification for McCaffrey. Remember when he jumped up to $19 million a year? At the time, no one else was higher than like 12 or 13 at the time. And it was like, well, I know that he's in this great system with Shanahan and all the other playmakers, but he also elevates it as well, right? So there's a little bit of you need this, but also McCaffrey does add more than the other running backs that the Niners have had. Just like Derrick Henry, right? We made the argument for years. Well, they made Gus Edwards into a 5+ yards per carry guy, but Derrick Henry elevates it a little bit more, and you might have to pay for that just a bit. I think Bijan has that ability about him as well.
He does. The Dalvin Cook is a great cautionary tale, though, because for as great as Dalvin Cook was, it was short-lived, and when it ended, it ended.
Yeah.
Like he went from arguably the best running back in the NFL, or right up there with any of them. Incredible production, incredible ability for the Vikings. It was fantastic for like a 4 or 5 year stretch, and then it just stopped. Like he just hit the wall and he was done. And he's still only 30 or whatever. So even a guy as good as Dalvin, it can be over in a heartbeat. That's the risk. Like that's
still
the
only
danger.
30?
I think so. That's the danger of the big money contract for a running back beyond his first year, but beyond his first deal, right? Is you don't know when, if at all. I mean, like Derrick Henry's, what is he, 30? Derrick Henry's deep into his 30s, still trucking, right? Still looking as good as ever.
Oh, yeah. Dalvin turns 31 in a few days.
Right. So it's like, at their peak, those are 2 of the top 5 running backs in the NFL. But you don't know if you think you have one of those guys, is he going to be Derrick Henry and last forever, as a granite freak show who just defies all the rules? Or is he going to be Dalvin Cook, where he goes from dynamic, impactful, force multiplier, one of the best running backs in the NFL, overnight to just, you're done now?
The one more thing I'll add to that, where I mentioned it on a show a couple weeks ago, and again, had some conversations with people in the league the last couple days as I was traveling and down in Nashville at this personnel symposium, which was fun.
Symposium, good word.
It was more college driven, but a lot of NFL people there and everything. the difficulty with age curves. And the thing I said a couple weeks ago, in other sports, your age curve is like you can almost, like, say basketball, there's 5 different positions, but you're all performing the same tasks. So you can run the data on almost everybody. In baseball, you run the age curves mostly on pitchers versus hitters. So you have this big, sample size and data set. In football, there's 10 legitimately different positions where even a guard and a tackle, even if you lump all O-line together, you still have a lot of unique positions, defensive tackle versus edge versus linebacker. So that tightens up the sample size and the data set when you're trying to run age curves and trying to figure out when. Because, again, historically, you're trying to say, when's the peak? Buy a guy before the peak, know when the peak is, and then, send him off when he's going to decline. And then the executive I was talking to last night brings up again, all right, we don't know. Like, what about Trent Williams and Andrew Whitworth and at the quarterback position, Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford and Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers? Okay, the old 30, for quarterback, 37, 40 might be the new 37. Cam Hayward, who we've talked about a lot, we don't know. I mean, it's really tough if the age curves are moving just because of nutrition and workout regimens and everything.
I'm sure they are.
Does it change 2 to 3 years? Devontae Adams, he may have lost a step last year, but he's still extremely productive at a point where receivers historically would drop off. So that adds more complication. It's not specific to running back, but just adds more complicating factors to trying to predict when the drop-off is and to get out at the right time.
The ones that I would be, if I was an NFL executive or personnel guy, the aging thing that I would be trying to crack is less, where is the curve pushing the sort of the end point, the final number to. I want to try and avoid the guys that drop off a cliff, right? Like, I want to try and find, is there a way you can predict the next Dalvin Cook, the guys that go from peak to done seemingly overnight? And there's tons of them, and they always happen, not always, but you can see them at their absolute peak, and then they just disappear in the space of a year or two across all sports. It's weird, and I've never really understood how that happens. Some players, you can see that they're older, they're aging, but they're aging gracefully, right? Like, it's a slow decline. They're definitely on the way down, but that way down could last years, and you could still have. So now you just have to sort of plot out what the decline looks like and when they stop being worth the money. The ones that are problematic are the ones where halfway through whatever contract you've got them on, they're going to go from elite to done. And, you have to factor that in. So you get like 2 years of absolutely worth the money, and then 2 years where they're not on the roster anymore. You're jettisoning them and you're paying
right.
them money to not be there. But like across all sports, you can think of that. Dalvin Cook's the NFL example. Fernando Torres in soccer is one I always think of, where I can't think of a guy, Salah recently, I guess, as well, who just he was the best striker in the world and then wasn't in the space of like a year. Like, it happened overnight. Then he was never that guy again. I kind of likened it to, you ever see that guy, what's his name, Dr. Mike Israetel, this sort of workout dude, nutritionist, sports science, all kinds of stuff. He's got a monster YouTube channel. He was putting somebody through a workout, and this idea of like lift to failure or whatever, right? And his thing,
Neil.
Yeah. But his thing was like, some people, when they really struggle on a rep, they've still got like 4 or 5 more reps in them, It's like a struggle, but then you keep going on. Now that's your money zone. That's where you put in the growth. But he's like, but some people, the ones that are more quick twitch muscle fiber, when they get that one where it's really struggling, they're done. It's out, right? Like, you go from, this is easy. I got loads of reps left. And then the one that's a struggle, and then you're out.
Disappears.
Same thing. It's like there are some people where when they hit that point, they've still got 4 or 5 good reps in them, and that's great. And then there's some people, when they hit that rep, it's over. You've got nothing left in the tank. Those are the guys I think that the NFL needs to figure out how to solve. How do we predict the cliff?
I wonder if NFL teams have enough data to be better at that. Because it's not just the chips in the shoulder pad data during games. They have it all at practice. I mean, they've got a lot of information on players, but they only have they only have the practice information and everything, obviously, when they're on their own team. So if you're bringing in a free agent, it still might be difficult to predict.
And also, that's the stuff that only goes back so far, right?
Right, and we're still, from a data perspective, in its infancy when it comes to that.
I do wonder, but I also wonder, is that even predictable, those things? Like, are you ever going to be able to predict the guys who just go from elite to done in a heartbeat? Or is that just some weird ass fluky element of human genetics that's never going to be solvable.
Mohal does want me to teach you about Bobby Bonilla.
I know all about
You're familiar
Bobby
with Bobby
yeah.
and Bobby Bonilla Day.
Got his deferred payment. He gets, what is it, $1.2 million every year for the next 25 years or whatever.
We got 10 more years of Bobby Bonilla Day, July 1st. It is a wonderful thing.
And I know
that was just more deferred payment than he fell off the
here's
cliff.
the thing. I know even more than that, right? I know about that. I also know, allegedly, at least I've heard, so it's secondhand information that I've internalized and aren't going to fact check, that it was smart by the Mets. Is that who was paying him? Yeah. It was a smart deal. Like, they get ridiculed. They're still paying, but apparently that was good business.
Yeah, well,
because the deferring in the payment is like they've saved money.
The owner invested
the money
in a fund by a man named Bernie Madoff. So, of course, it was wise.
But it's like they earned more money.
It was the theoretical right move before things fell apart.
Exactly.
Anyway, the other running back making news, Jonathan Taylor, for the Colts, a 2-year, $44 million extension. He had already re-signed with the Colts in 2023, and he'll be up in that $22 million range as they tack on a couple more years. He's 27 years old, so we're probably right on the cusp when it might be a little bit riskier for the Colts here. But Taylor's been a really good, productive running back for the majority of his career, and all the way back to Wisconsin.
It's funny. I saw them interviewing him after the Bijan Robinson deal came out, and he's like, "Yeah, I gotta hit up the agent and check in after that." Remember how long and drawn out the last one was? Yeah. He was in the bus when we were at training camp meeting with the late Jim Irsay, right? They drove the Irsay bus around the back of the facility, and Jonathan Taylor hopped in, and they had a tete-a-tete. Yeah. Now with the new ownership with the daughter, it's just job done.
And he's had a couple injury issues throughout his career, but the last couple of years, over 700 snaps, over 800 snaps. Last year, he's good catching the ball out of the backfield, but I remember him coming out of Wisconsin being not only difficult to tackle, but a smooth, zone runner, gap runner. He surprised a little bit with his 40. We were like, he didn't feel like he was that fast at in college, and then runs really well at the combine, and he's carried all that to the NFL. Just a good, keep you on schedule running back with some big playability as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good deal for them. Good running back. Probably gets a little bit underrated, I think, these days because of the shiny new thing. Because he had a couple of down years in there, but he's still really, really good.
Yeah, he doesn't have the. Bijan brought the explosive run ability last year. Maybe didn't have it 2 years ago, but Taylor doesn't bring the big playability as much. But
I'm starting to feel that that's just a bad way of measuring running backs. I saw somebody make this argument with Bashal Tutin yesterday. Where it's like, Bashal Tutin's supposed to be this explosive, potential high. He's like, he had one run over 19 yards or something last year. It's like, yeah, but maybe that's not a good indication of how explosive a guy is. Like maybe, there's 11 defenders in your way between you and the end zone. Maybe sometimes one of those guys is between you and where you need to be.
Yeah, I always describe it as at some point you're going to have it well blocked up. And when that happens, I want the guy that can create the explosive.
Sure.
Now, if Tutin never has that, then it doesn't matter that he runs in the 4.3s, right?
And just because it's one of those things where you assume that will happen several times in a season, but it might not.
But there's value in having both guys. Like there's value in having David Montgomery, who, when it's not blocked up, forces a lot of missed tackles and keeps you getting 3, or Joe Mixon, who just gets 4 to 5 yards on a lot of carries, but is never going to create that explosive. Montgomery, ironically, had a lot of explosives last year. By the way, I think a big part of it is when you're just taking running back 2 snaps. Remember last year, there were points where Gibbs had those 21 carries for 68-yard games that are more Montgomery-ish, and then Montgomery comes in and goes 8 carries for 100 or whatever. I'd have to go check the stats exactly, but there were games where they almost like flipped roles last year. So sometimes just being the backup running back, you have some of those big play opportunities because you have smaller sample too. Mm-hmm. But Taylor to the Colts, you got him and Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce all locked up now on that offense.
Yeah.
And then the other news from a signing perspective, Stefon Diggs has signed with the Washington Commanders, 1-year, $12 million deal. This had been rumored for a while. I think Chiefs fans hearing the reports from their receivers in camp are hoping that they might make a play for Stefon Diggs, but this always felt like the right move for Washington, who had Terry McLaurin, a massive question at wide receiver 2. Can Treylon Burks do it? It doesn't matter. You've got Stefon Diggs who comes in, and he could still play right? He can still play, and he had a really nice season for the Patriots last year. That was a big reason why they went on their run. And now the 1-2 punch of Terry McLaurin and Stefon Diggs, that is the perfect fit and a huge signing for Jayden Daniels in that offense.
Yeah.
And only $12 million for the
great
1
deal.
year.
It's a great deal for them. Like, it's perfect.
And the history now has been most teams, they like 1 year of Stefon Diggs.
Yeah.
Houston, New England.
It's perfect for multiple reasons.
1 year of Stefon Diggs is what most teams have been able to stomach these last few years, and it looks like Washington. Look, if it goes really well, they might have a decision to make, but for $12 million, worth it for a year.
I swear, it's one of the most prescient pieces of content that any team has ever put out. Was that video where Bijan Robinson went through the Minnesota Vikings locker room, asking all the players who would they least like to date their sister, and almost every single one of them, without hesitation, like didn't even think about it, immediately answered Stefon Diggs, right? And then eventually Robinson worked his way to Stefon Diggs. And as Diggs was thinking about it, unlike all of the other people, said, and I just want to say, there's starting to emerge a bit of a consensus here that it's you. And he was like, I'm a great guy. And he was like, it's just a little bit of a theory that might not be the case. So look, 1 year deal is perfect for that reason. But also it's perfect because, Diggs showed last season that he can absolutely still play, and he doesn't need to be the number one now. And also he's one of those receivers that I think has happily enough accepted a role that he's not, the number one superstar anymore. He can, I think he said something like, I'm the best number two in the NFL. I mean, that's A, might be true, and B, is perfect because, that's sort of demonstrated the type of ego that you need to have to be the perfect complement to a Terry McLaurin. It's a perfect fit.
Good self-awareness there.
Yeah.
But I talk a lot about when you make that one signing, how it affects the depth chart. You don't have to worry about, they had some other intriguing receivers. You don't have Antonio Williams as a rookie, or Treylon Burks, who had a couple big plays, the one-handed catch last year. Fine, let those guys compete for wide receiver 3 snaps. Let them be complementary pieces. Van Jefferson, every time Van Jefferson has been forced into a number 2 role, that hasn't worked well. You have Jalen Lane, who has some big play speed and everything. So now you have the 1-2 punch of McLaurin and Diggs. Bump everybody down the depth chart. Let them fill more specific roles. I think it's a massive move for Washington. It's just one player.
Yeah.
But he was as productive as McLaurin last year, if not more. Depending on how you want to weigh it. And it's a big move for Washington, who made a lot of their progress this offseason on the defensive side of the ball. Revamped that front seven. They'll be getting after the quarterback better. They'll be a lot stronger up front. I still have questions about their secondary, but the offense is very much intact now with a Stefon Diggs, Terry McLaurin at wide receiver.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great move, I think, for both parties. Love the signing. The other thing David says in the chat, we never covered the Jalen Carter deal, which we should touch on now.
Yeah, we're going to. Tore his ACL, unfortunately. Falcons' former first-rounder, Jalen Walker.
No, Jalen Carter, not Jalen.
Oh, Jalen Carter. I apologize. No, you're right. We haven't gone back to Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle for the Eagles. So they've now signed Jalen Carter to a massive deal, and Jordan Davis, and that Georgia defense from 2022, making a lot of money. So we were wondering if the Jordan Davis deal meant, are they souring on Carter? Do they not trust him? There were questions about Carter and his long-term prospects off the field coming into the draft, but yep, he's an Eagle and he's being paid.
Yeah, 4-year, $152 million contract extension, which includes $106.9 million in guaranteed. He now becomes the highest paid, defensive tackle in the NFL. So quite distinct from the speculation of, does Jordan Davis's big contract mean Jalen Carter is a trade candidate or, on the way out? No, they found a way of signing him, not just signing him, but, he's going to reset the market, and they got them both signed. How many, they must have 1 million void years in that contract with the Eagles, the way they do business, but fair play. They got them both.
$26 million per year for Jordan Davis, $38 for Jalen Carter. So I do think they value those guys properly. Carter's going to be a much better pass rusher, Davis a more consistent run defender, but they're looking strong at defensive tackle for the foreseeable future.
The number I see has 4 void years at the end of this contract.
Right. It does make some of the other defensive tackle deals, the one that stands out, Quinnen Williams making 24 per year, and he's 29. He's at the older end of this, but it makes him look like a steal for these next few years. How does that affect Dexter Lawrence, who's at 28 right now? And you said, hey, he might be coming, but if he has a big year with Cincinnati, comes back to the table, is he looking for 35 plus in a couple of years? And we've got tension in Cincinnati, as often happens with contracts.
There were people that were arguing with me about that on Twitter, saying that he got an extension, a 1-year extension or whatever. They redid his deal. I swear, I would bet a large sum of money that if Dexter Lawrence has a big season this year, he is coming to the table looking for an extension, a contract adjustment this offseason. If he plays more than 1 year on his current deal, I would be flabbergasted.
So also look at the 2024 Eagles, Super Bowl champion Eagles. They had 3 of the top 7 highest paid defensive tackles in the NFL right now, because Milton Williams is also at $26 million. And remember when that happened and how it almost makes me think just pay the money for the good players.
Yeah.
We're sitting there in free agency a couple of years ago, and we're like, Milton Williams is up at 26. That was a monster number a year and a half ago. I mean, we're talking the spring of 2025 when they're coming off of their Super Bowl in 24. It's April of 2025, and it is a monster number for Milton Williams. Can you believe the Patriots went to 26 million? Well, now he's down at 5th highest APY and 12 million lower than his former teammate Jalen Carter.
And by the way, generally speaking, teams are just paying the money. Like, the only question is when the extension gets done, but most teams are paying the superstar. They're not letting them hit free agency. Those guys rarely hit the market. That's why, in part, Milton Williams' deal was as big as it was, because rarely does a guy actually hit the market like that. Teams are they're not letting their star players walk. And if anything happens to them, they get traded.
It's the defensive tackle market. Again, I would say it did feel low for a couple of years. My theory on it was the 2019 class, which included Jeffrey Simmons, who just got paid over $35 million a year as well, Quinnen Williams, Dexter Lawrence. It was that group at Oliver. It was that group that started. It was like, we finally have defensive tackles to pay now. The college football, the thought on it was, I think college football did a bad job developing defensive tackles for a few years. They were trying to stop RPOs. They just didn't have good defensive tackles. Then they finally did. And then when those guys hit the market, the 2019 class plus Chris Jones, they started to reset everything. And then you started to get guys like Jalen Carter and Milton Williams entering the league, and made sense to pay those guys. But yeah, the defensive tackle market going up quite a bit as well. What else? Any other extensions that we missed?
No, I think that's it. We're into training camp hype season.
Before we do that, Check the Mics brought to you by FanDuel. My baseball fans, my people, you think you know who's hitting a homer today, Sam?
No.
Well, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with Daily Dingers. Joining the action, it's easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. You got nothing to lose and a lot to gain. And don't forget, you can make a free pick every day during the MLB season. So a lot of trade deadline moves and everything, Sam. But again, my Reds still hit a lot of homers, even if they can't win a lot of games. The Red Sox are hot right now, best team in baseball since the 1st of July, since I traveled back to Massachusetts. They didn't lose when I went home. So
good luck, John.
Do your research, adjust for ballparks, adjust for who's hot, and pick who's going to win a home run or hit a home run. Wow, sounded like an Irishman talking about baseball. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home for home runs. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com/33rd. That's FanDuel.com/33rd to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. 21 plus in select states and Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amounts. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-MY-RESET. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 1-877-770-7867 in Louisiana. Let's get to the training camp hype, but because I did misspeak on Jalen Walker for a minute, let's at least talk about the ACL injury for the former Falcons first-rounder, Jalen Walker. Unfortunate. I mean, I hate all the injuries. I really hate it when you're trying to see year 2 of a player. The Falcons need him. He had a really promising first year and didn't play a lot of football in college, right? Remember, he's under 1,000 snaps, and it was like, hey, he's inexperienced with upside, and just a big setback for the Falcons and Walker.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, injuries in preseason suck, period. And it feels like there's more than this year than ever. I suspect it feels that way every year. It's the way it is. But there's so many guys going down hurt, and the ones obviously that are the worst are the season enders. You don't even get to see the guy this year. Jalen Walker is one of the worst types of those because you're a second-year player, encouraged by what he did year 1. A unique prospect coming into the NFL, this sort of hybrid player, and now it's like, well, let's really see what he can do year 2. And no, you're not going to because he tore his ACL, and instead he's now going to work his way back, rehab, and hopefully hit the ground running next year and pick up where he left off. Just sucks for everybody.
It does. And, a team that strange offseason for the Falcons, right? I think every year there's 4 or 5 teams. It wasn't strange for the Falcons. It was just they're resetting a little bit, right? They bring in Ian Cunningham and Matt Ryan, and they weren't aggressive this offseason saying, hey, let's go win right now. I think they're one of the 5 or 6 teams that feel like the roster took a slight step back this year versus last year. You also have the uncertain. And look, I mean, Tua could improve the quarterback position immediately, and they look better. But the overall depth, right? Losing David Onyemata and Caden Ellis on the defensive side of the ball. But the pass rush has been a decade-long problem for the Falcons, and it looked like they at least solved that last year between Jalen Walker, James Pierce, and all of the blitzing and what they did. They did a really nice job last year. Their linebackers did a nice job getting after the quarterback. And it just takes a double hit now with, guys like Onyemata and Caden Ellis leaving, and now Jalen Walker hurt for the season. Puts a little bit more pressure on Pierce rushing the passer, and, might hurt Walker's development just a little bit.
Yeah, and so obviously Walker's development gets placed on hold, and he now has to develop and overcome an ACL injury. So blow to him. It's a real problem for the Falcons because obviously you lose a Jalen Walker. That's a problem in itself. But also, all of a sudden, James Pierce becomes your pass rush, and he's dealing with a potential NFL suspension coming down the pipe. He avoided all legal trouble, but is still absolutely potentially about to be suspended by the NFL over that, and frankly should be at the minimum. So you've got A, all of your pass rushes dependent on James Pierce, and B, he might miss an indeterminate amount of time heading into the season. So you would assume the Falcons are now going to be turning to what veteran free agents are available at this point. And, it's slim pickings. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney already signed with Houston. Like, there's not that many guys out there that you would say can come in and make a real impact for this Falcons team at that position.
Should have talked about that move as well. Rich get richer.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Also returns home, full circle.
I know, right? I mean, Clowney would be a fringe edge too for certain teams. I think he's always been a good, solid player. Like, he could still play. He could still be a part of a rotation. But if you know you've got a 1-2 punch of Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, and he's the clear, number 3 edge, and he's just, he's a backup. He's going to play 500 snaps maybe, whatever it may be. What a fit. Houston was already loaded on the defensive line, and then add Clowney, who's one of the better third edge rushers in the NFL, and they already have the best 1-2 punch. Makes that room that much deeper when it comes to the D line in Houston. You want to talk Titans camp for a minute?
Okay.
Went to Titans camp.
What'd you see?
Well, you got to start with the quarterback and Cam Ward in the offense. The receivers were getting a bit of hype when I came in. Calvin Ridley hadn't done much to that point, but I guess he was good the day I was there.
He got was it Chipotle? He got 15 pounds. They said he lost,
which is
for a guy who doesn't have 15 pounds to lose.
A.J. Brown, when he was with the Titans, also got Chipotle.
But he had 15 pounds to lose. You know what I mean?
I get it. I'm just talking about the. I don't want to lose a potential sponsorship from Nashville Chipotles, but there might be something going with the Nashville Chipotle.
Just saying, a guy of Calvin Ridley's size losing 15 pounds means a lot of hours spent on the toilet.
Yeah, not great. But Ridley finally made some plays when I was there. Elikai Manor is getting a lot of hype. And I was asking around, how's Carnell Tate looking? Good. So the receiving core looking pretty good. And we talked about what Stefon Diggs does as an option, bumping everybody down the depth chart a little bit. The 1-2 punch of now of Carnell Tate, Calvin Ridley, Aya Manor can win on the outside with his speed, and he just needed some polish. He can't be a guy that's depended on as highly as he was last year, but I think he adds he'd be a nice 3-4. And don't forget Wan'Dale Robinson. He's running all the inside stuff and knows Daboll's offense. And then Chimera Dike gets to be the speed receiver. It's actually, if Tate is what we think he is, Carnell Tate, it's a really nice, deep receiving core where they have a good group of different skill sets. Now, Cam Ward, his arm looked awesome. Zipping it deep out. He had one to Ridley over the middle of the field where he was going through his reads really well, hitting 1, 2, 3, and then zipping it. He was doing a lot of work at the line of scrimmage, which was impressive on a couple plays. So we preface this. Overall, very impressed by Cam Ward. However, there were 2 awful, awful plays. Like if we were doing our old PFF grading on the practice, it would probably be bad overall because of these 2 plays. He had 2 almost identical scramble drill, throwback, Farvian throwback across his body, for picks. One was a pick 6 by Amani Hooker. One was a great interception by Jermaine Johnson, I think peeled off of his rush to read it. So maybe it was more of a great play. But I was talking to somebody with the Titans at the time. I said, Cam's just trying stuff, right? He said, I hope so. He said, I hope so. So I'm very cautious with that, Sam, because we hear a lot about, hey, it's practice, and I know we like to have stats and charts and everything, but you never know if a player's literally just, hey, take some chances. Who knows? We're just getting used to the scramble drill deal. Like, let's just force one into triple coverage just to test things like we saw Josh Allen do last year at joint practice. So I'm cautious to be like, man, Cam, 2 awful decisions. What are you doing?
Right.
But it's something to keep an eye on. If he does it in games, then it's
it's a much different dynamic, right?
And it's not like he hasn't done this in games. Like he has done it at Miami before. And one of the things I loved about Cam Ward is even after he did that, say the Cal game, where he throws a pick 6 late night and he makes a big comeback, against the Calgorithm.
The Calgorithm
when they were making their move a couple years ago. But it was, you just got to be careful with that, Cam. So it was 2 scramble drill, throwback across his body, bad interception, something to keep an eye on from Cam Ward. But it was like, other than those 2 plays, looking sharp.
Yeah, that's a great point to make every year, though, this idea of, like, be careful with just seeing how many bad plays a quarterback makes because, training – I mean, even the list is growing of quarterbacks that themselves have made the point that training camp is the time to try things, right, to test yourself, to see what you can get away with at the NFL level. I think particularly for younger players who are making that adjustment anyway, like we talk all the time, the gap between what's open and what isn't. At the college level to the NFL level is huge. And camp is the time where you can try that with no theoretical downside, right? The only downside is there's beat writers and fans watching you do it and writing it down, tweeting it out, right? Yeah. But it doesn't count for anything, right? Theoretically, your coaches, the actual people in the building understand what you're doing. So it's a downside, risk-free chance to test the boundaries in a way you can't do in the NFL regular season, right? You used to, like Peyton Manning did that all throughout his rookie season. That was Peyton Manning's calibration system. I'm going to lead the league in all-time interceptions as a rookie, and that's going to calibrate me for how I progress to the next level. Now, they're doing that in training camp, right? They're trying to get that all out of them. But you got writers out here just putting out their stats, being like, what a terrible game, or what a terrible practice, rather, by this quarterback. He threw 3 interceptions, therefore he's bad.
I can't remember if I mentioned this on the show or not, but there was something that came out recently. It was former Packers, like one of the early analytics people in the NFL, Mike Ayers, and his son Brian, who's been around the league and everything with Seattle. And Mike Ayers made some comment that 7-on-7 stats were really predictive.
Yeah.
And then my first instinct is, well, is that only in that building? Is that only for the Packers? Because you don't have 7-ons. That study's fascinating to me, right? Because I've always thought about that. They have so much practice data. What's predictive? One of the things I always ask, if you have a good week of practice, game week, do you have a good game?
Right.
Does it matter? Does it matter? You hear coach, oh, we had a great week of practice. Does it matter? It's always my first question. But his claim was that 7-on-7 was really predictive. And then my next follow-up is like, okay, is that, even though you have maybe 20 years of data, is that still a small sample size because it's one team, one system, and only, say, 2 or 3 head coaches and 2 or 3 quarterbacks? Or would that actually stretch out across all 32 teams? It was really fascinating to me that was said, because my inkling is I don't know how much of practice is actually predictive, but he said 7-on-7 more specifically than 11-on-11. But the point still stands. Like, we don't know what players are being coached to do and what they're, when you see the one-on-one reps and everything, you might have offensive linemen trying different techniques on that particular day, and they get lost. And my bigger PSA is what I can't stand right now is these brand accounts. Yeah. Just poking fun at NFL players, like, oh, nice play. Like Mahomes threw the ball off his center's head a couple days ago, and it was very clearly he goes to throw the ball, his receiver slips, he tries to stop it, it slips out of his hand, it hits the center, and it's like everybody's just making jokes about it. Oh yeah, Mahomes, he's back. It's like, just don't be stupid. Don't be dumb. You don't have to be dumb. I know people are trying to be funny and engaging.
Yeah,
and whatever.
I mean, it's not that it's necessarily meaningless, the overall, good camp, bad camp stuff. It's more that you can't tell, right? Like particularly with the quarterback stuff. We know the quarterbacks are out there. Like somebody, I forget who it was. Somebody had some stat the Eagles. That guy who always puts out the awful, misleading, ridiculous takes for the Eagles.
Elliott?
Him. It was like Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown an interception in training camp yet. This is huge for the Eagles. Him taking care of the football, most important thing that could happen for this team. And like a million people were pointing out, like, that's a terrible thing. Your quarterback should not be not throwing an interception all the way through training camp, because that's demonstrating that he isn't pushing.
He also had one interception into November last year when we were saying, man, this offense disappears for half of every game.
But like multiple people, including quarterbacks, were like, that's not a good thing. If anything, that's a bad statistic, right? Like if it means anything at all, and it might not, it's a bad thing, because your quarterback should be pushing the boundaries in training camp to the point where they're throwing more interceptions than they would typically throw, because that's the risk-free way you learn, you can grow. You can't do that in the regular season, right? Like, that's the thing. You just can't tell what they're trying to do, and so you don't know how bad these decisions are versus experimental.
So be careful with training camp stats. But yeah, Titans camp-wise, my biggest takeaway was on the offensive side of the ball. I think they've added – you see like Alontae Taylor, who they added on the defensive side of the ball. I think a full year of Kevin Winston, who I really like at safety. I think they've added some energy and attitude to the defensive side of the ball. So I think they have a chance to be sneaky good. Probably have to run the ball a little bit better than they have in camp. But it was fun going over there. Always enjoy going to Titans camp. It's going to be tough to go anywhere else here. I'm on lockdown with Kelly ready to have a baby at any point. So maybe if the Bengals will let us in, we can go to their camp.
I have multiple emails out now to the Bengals, and they have been ignored so far. Now,
put the fedora on?
I do have the phone number for the person we want, which I rediscovered the other day. Now my debate is my initial reach out text just fresh? Like, do I just start over, essentially repeat the email in the text? Do you be like, hey,
check your inbox.
I've sent you a couple of emails now. I'm following up via text. What's the go-to there?
We have some time. They have the big ones. Their joint practice with the Bears, which is huge. I'd rather get to that. So they have some time to respond to you here.
They do. They've got time. It's just you don't know. Like, there's one of the NFL, the Irish NFL guys are in town today. He's going to Bengals training camp.
Wow.
He's on a training camp tour. I don't know how many he's doing, but he said, like, by far the most difficult one to deal with was the Bengals, right? They had to get the NFL involved to be like, can you get this guy into the building, please? And by the building, I mean the field next to the building.
We haven't tried calling Raj yet.
It's true. But like he was like at multiple emails before they answered. It's unbelievable.
All right, man. What else do we want to do? Mohawk will say, like, if I ever had to go if Kelly goes into labor, we might.
Yeah, I didn't mean to ask what the plan was there, actually, at some point.
I meant to. I might have to miss a couple days. She claims I need to, like, take a few days off or something. I'm like, I mean, do I really have? I work like a couple hours a week here. That's all I do. I just go do the show, and you can handle it. But we'll see what happens there. But I told her it would be good content if she went into labor while we're live. I think that would be a good.
Yeah, that would be good. Well, only at the end of the show.
Get the phone call and I leave, and then you.
But ideally,
finish
towards the last few minutes of the show,
Yeah,
I can vamp for
I
could vamp for 10 minutes solo. It feels like if you did that at 9:05, that would be more problematic.
Yeah, hopefully at the end of the show. But last night she was like, "Oh, it's coming soon." I was like, "You're getting a little dramatic here. Let's not. Let me know when it's really, really time."
Right.
You know?
We probably should have a plan, though.
We'll work on it. Eli, let's get a plan together. you step into the seat, Eli. And we just go.
Jump in.
Training camp hype. Who's getting hyped up and what's real, what's not?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go through some names here, Sam.
Buying or selling your hype.
I'm going to read through the notes. Daniel Jones looking good for the. What do you want to do?
Let's start from most hyped to least.
Go ahead.
The most hyped player in the entire NFL at this point, to the degree that it's getting ridiculous, is Luther Burden. Ben Johnson is about ready to adopt Luther Burden at this point, right? Everybody in the Bears is talking about the transcendent human being that he's about to become. His apotheosis is real. Luther Burden is about to become a god. And I want to buy it. I'm at this point, I'm wanting somebody to say something negative so I can slightly tap the brakes on my own excitement.
Here's why it's real.
Because he's amazing?
Because we all knew it coming in. This isn't surprising that it's real. It's not surprising. It's not like, oh, out of nowhere, big shock. The data has been hyping him. The fantasy analysts have been hyping him. We all saw him play football last year. We said, hey, good things happen every time Luther Burden touches the ball. Why is he wide receiver 3? And I'll start giving him the ball a bit more.
And a second-round draft pick.
Yeah, and a second-round pick who could have gone in the first round. And we were talking about the Vikings taking him in the first, future-proof against Jordan Addison and to be with Justin Jefferson. It's not surprising. This is real. It's as real as it gets. Luther Burden, real deal. Huge season coming. It's
also the number of people that have sort of talked about his work ethic and his, the questions. The only thing really that anybody was concerned about coming into the NFL was, there have been some rumblings. Is he really dedicated? Is he really, is he a bit of a diva receiver, blah, blah. It was that kind of stuff. And it's like, Ben Johnson's the perfect guy to pair that guy with. It's a great fit in Chicago. And now it's like, that's the stuff he's being praised for. It's like, yeah, obviously he's a talented playmaker and he moves differently and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, but he's working at it too. That's the most exciting stuff.
It's also easy to say, well, I've heard, I remember all the training camp hype. It's all noise. I mean, last year at this time, Emeka Egbuka was one of those guys that was getting a ton of the hype as a rookie, and that carried very well into the beginning of the season before he got injured. Sure. So, not all the hype is fake, right? That's why we have a choice: buy or sell.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say Cyrus Allen.
No, he's probably second though.
Well, so let's go there. Chiefs wide receiver Cyrus Allen. What was he, a 5th rounder? If you listened to Check the Mic during draft season, when we had our friend Mike Renner on here, this was one of his sleepers, Cyrus Allen from Cincinnati, and he was making big plays, not only middle of the field, one-handed catches for the Chiefs, but playing with the ones, earning the trust of Patrick Mahomes. Then he gets hurt, and it's like, oh man, he's being carted off. And we just have to be careful with carted off as well in training camp,
particularly in Kansas City, because they're down in a bowl, and
everybody's carted off,
and everybody gets carted. Yeah,
I mean, I was almost carted off over there when I was at training camp, just because that's a long walk. I need help, so everybody gets carted off at certain places just because you've got a long way to go. It was just a shin bruise, so he'll be okay. It's nothing long-term or anything that would carry into the season. But Cyrus Allen getting a lot of hype, and there's opportunity there in Kansas City.
Ton of hype. As you said, opportunity easily. There's a space to be won, significant playing time won. There was a report, I forget whose it was, training camp report, that was saying the Chiefs see Stefon Diggs in Cyrus Allen. So, that's... Anytime you get the random-ass guy with hype and you're putting a name to him, it reminds me of, Jerry Rice. It's always good. That's where the hype really gets going.
The cautionary tale being there have been a lot of young Chiefs receivers hyped up at camp. The Justin Ross award.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and there's also the thing that I sent you the other day, which is he's running with the ones, but the current ones were Jalen Royals, Cyrus Allen, and Armstrong or whatever. It's
our show is simply here's the context. Running with the ones means, a couple people might be hurt. And by the way, if somebody's hurt or missing a day, it might be okay. They might be back in 2 days and it's fine. Doesn't mean it would affect anything. But running with the ones often means some of the ones aren't playing,
Yeah,
or
I
you're
mean,
actually getting bumped up
yeah.
to see how you do with the starting quarterback.
It's never a bad thing, but it's
Right.
like it might not mean you're a starter. You know what I
Right.
mean? Depending on what training camp is currently looking like in that building.
And just because the ones were Jalen Royals and Andrew Armstrong and someone, Tyquan Thornton, doesn't mean that the Chiefs are going to be awful at receiver that particular day. Parker Washington getting a lot of hype.
A lot of Jags. BTJ is also getting hype as well. Brian Thomas Jr. I'm going to be a year off on Brian Thomas Jr. every year for his entire
Now you're
career.
down on him.
It's like I hated him coming out, loved him after year one. Now I don't know what to do. The hype is he's back, right? Last year something was wrong. We don't know what it was. We're just going to not talk about it anymore. But Brian Thomas Jr. is going back to being the player he was going into last year. And I'm like, I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know what he is.
I will never be a year off on Parker Washington. I'll always be early on Parker Washington, and I will, if I continue to market myself and use that propaganda, I will look like a wide receiver genius if I just remind you that I had Puka Nacua and Parker Washington as the two sleeper receivers of the 2023 draft. I mean, Parker was awesome last year, man. And the thing that made the Jags offense great is that there wasn't necessarily a go-to guy, but there were some games where Parker Washington was the dude and other games where it was Jacoby Myers. And when that was the case, there were games where Brian Thomas Jr. also made some big plays. And now they have Travis Hunter back. And man, they could be loaded at receiver. If they all play to their capability and Trevor Lawrence is even just 90% of what he was in the second half last year, I think that offsets all of my concerns with the Jags, where you can look at the offseason and say, did they do enough? Do they have enough at defensive tackle? Did they actually improve enough? The quarterback and receivers can carry them. They're that good. And Parker Washington, if he has games where he's got 10 to 12 targets, he showed he can handle it. That dude can win. He's got good ball skills, good route runner. I like him, man. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I think that Jags receiving group is going to be very good. Even more so if BTJ is actually back to where he was.
Who else you got hype-wise?
Let's stay with wide receiver for a second. Jayden Higgins is getting a lot of hype, particularly from the Texans. Like, this is one of those, it's like, where's the hype coming from? Is it fans? Is it journalists? Is it the building themselves? And the most hyped people, it's universal, right? The Texans one is interesting because it seems to be really coming from the Texans. Like, the Texans are talking up Jayden Higgins to a huge degree.
When it comes from the team, do you think that's more of a psychological ploy? Like theoretically, you know your players, you know which players need a little bit more confidence.
Maybe.
And then you hype them up. Or maybe you know players who have too much confidence and you kind of tear them down a little bit. My high school baseball coach was really good at that.
Yeah.
He was like, when you got too high,
right,
he brought you back down to earth. And when you got too low, he bumped you up a little bit, right? He had a really good feel for when to do that. When it comes from the team, I wonder if it's like, man, Jayden's really hurting confidence-wise. Let's talk him up.
I think there can
I'm not
be,
saying it was in this case, but
I think there can be some of that. I think there's also, there is this layer of information the teams have that people don't on the outside. And, and you get glimpses of that in Hard Knocks or whatever. Like, there are times where I think teams appreciate a player's development before it's evident for everybody else. It's like they understand the work he's put in. They see some of the stuff he's been doing in meetings or whatever, and they add that to the plays that the guy's making in training camp or practices or whatever, and it's a much bigger, fuller picture than the average fan watching it or whatever.
Let me just say, because we're talking about buying or selling, I'm buying it.
Yeah, I'll buy Higgins.
I'm a Higgins guy.
I liked him coming in. He was good last year. I don't see any reason why they're lying.
He's a model guy. We need it. We need this from Jayden Higgins. Plus, I think he could have had much better production last year. There were a lot of plays where he was open. Him and C.J. Stroud were just, it was kind of like the Troy Franklin thing in Denver, just missing him a few times. I thought he looked better than maybe even the numbers last year.
Were we buying the Cyrus Allen thing? We bought Luther Burden. We're buying Jayden Higgins. Are we buying Cyrus Allen?
I'll buy Cyrus Allen as a productive player for the Chiefs, but I don't know if it's that immediate. I don't know if he steps in and, I don't think he's Stefon Diggs right away.
I'm going to sell that one
I
just
think
because I've seen
future.
I've lived through too many Justin Ross training camp.
I bought all the Justin Ross. I thought he was going to have 150 catches one year.
I've been burned by too many of them to buy into the first Chiefs, rookie training camp guy I hear, and so I'm out on that one.
Fair, be conservative, but if it backs up a prior, Luther Burden,
Yeah.
Parker Washington, Jayden Higgins.
A lot of those.
Absolutely.
I got a list of backing up Pryor's ones.
Backup Priors. Let's do all the receiver stuff because you mentioned yesterday it's a lot of receiver stuff. It's the easiest thing to know if a guy's doing
Yeah, I mean, it's the most obvious. Guy makes a spectacular one-handed catch. Oh, he's having a great camp.
I mean, that brings up the other nuanced discussion that we always have. I don't always trust beat writers interpreting football.
Rarely, in fact.
Yeah.
Well, it's also
when it comes to like, oh, here's a win by the offensive or defensive lineman. I'm like, I don't know if we
agree.
I don't know if I trust that.
There's definitely that.
You could trust a 40-yard catch from a beat writer.
Sure.
Most of the time, they're correct on that.
I don't know if I go that far. I would also, in their defense, right? It's not always the best vantage point to actually see and interpret plays. You know,
it's terrible. I hate
whatever you're parked in the stands in training camp.
Spot, one thing to watch.
Right. And so you might be a significant distance away from whatever it is you're trying to film with your phone in the sun, zoomed in. It's like, it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to actually accurately interpret. That being said, there's a ton of times out there where somebody will tweet something and be like, and you're like, that's not it's not a good play at all. Like somebody tweeted a play. It's like, wow, whoever it was, Rashawn Gary. And a lot of people did, but the one I first saw was Duke being like,
it's a screen.
It's a screen. He intentionally
That's
overset. And Duke did it really well. He just calmly and coolly explained it like to a child.
He's oversetting on purpose. That's a screen.
To let the guy inside because it's a screen. You know, it's like, you just, you got educated right there. Like, just be careful what you're tweeting out. Just double check it to make sure the way you're about to tweet it is actually what happened.
Yeah, I mean, then there's AI videos that I was
nothing's
tweeting, dude. Or AI images and everything out there too.
So cooked as a society. Did you see the thing where
don't keep going down the
one? Somebody tweeted out a thing that said some particular AI model. This one's unusually gifted at crafting late 90s grain fake footage, right? Like, what? This thing had created this video of like a bunch of 1995 school children predicting the future. And you're like, what a bizarre thing to be, unnaturally amazingly good at. But also, we're boned. How now future societies looking back are going to be like, there's no way of telling what was real anymore. Was this a real video from 95 or just the latest model, Sassy 82 has created this? We're in the Matrix. It's impossible to know what happened anymore.
It's not helping. It's not helping society at all.
No, it's not.
What about the people that go back and
no good can come from this?
Let's talk to somebody from the Revolutionary War.
Right.
In the middle of the war. Let's just go hang out.
Oh, look, I've uncovered some footage of George Washington. Turns out he actually loved the English.
This is what Zuck thought the metaverse would be before that thing tanked. Tanked, right? I mean, that was what he's like, we're just going to step into this world. Everybody wants to do that. I want to live reality.
We're living through every nightmare sci-fi film from the last 50 years. Ready Player One, The Matrix. And by the way, none of these end well.
Who's the guy that was like, oh man, you can use AI to create a podcast to talk to your kids about their day?
That's Sam Altman, the guy that's running this.
Like, why is that a good thing?
One of the best replies to that was or you could just talk to your kids.
Right.
You're in the car for 10 minutes, maybe have some interaction, humans. This is the guy who's determining the direction of humanity at the moment. Like some lunatic, weird ass, deviant, anti-social human is don't worry, I got this, guys.
Meanwhile,
sit back. I'm going to take humanity on the pathway.
Meanwhile, the football community is going to have 900 vibe-coded team-building apparati during free agency. Oh, come use my team-building site.
I saw a guy it was a video of, a dude putting through some psychotic workout, right? And what are you training for? He's like, I got 3 years left. And then they cut back to that scene from Terminator 2, the biggest war between humans and the machines came in 2029 or whatever. He's like, we got 3 years. And honestly, they may have overestimated based off the pace of this current stuff. We're headed to Skynet way before 2029.
Oh, get back to training camp hype. It's a good show. We haven't had a nice freewheeling show in a while. We were very structured last week with all of our season previews. Make sure you check those out if you haven't already. We had to interview Aaron Schatz and Les Snead on Monday. We finally have a chance to rant about AI.
Finally have a chance to dump on Sam Altman,
which is great. Who's one more receiver, Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah.
With the New England Patriots, who depth chart wise looks like he could have been just an afterthought, right? You got A.J. Brown coming in, you have Romeo Doubs coming in, but Boutte, who is thought of, is he expendable? Is he a trade candidate? Or, maybe the Patriots are just loaded at receiver now. And so May's getting hyped up again heading into year 3, but also Boutte making a lot of plays at camp, as is A.J. Brown, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sort of selling that to the degree that I can imagine him having a good camp and being a solid player, but I don't expect some giant leap forward from him.
And Romeo Doubs, who I have dubbed Mr. August. I haven't heard the hype yet for Doubs, but he was the hype machine a couple years ago.
I will give you one more, though. Another former Packers receiver. I saw a great tweet that was like, the Eagles are officially excited about Dontavian Wicks.
Oh, there we go. Was it Dontavian that he flashed a couple years ago when we were at the joint practice?
Maybe, but he's a classic guy. I could imagine him catching the eye every August, He's another classic.
All the Packers receivers.
But he's another class, like in particular, like he's another classic guy who would be spectacular in stretches and then not do it consistently.
All right, where else you seeing some hype?
Well, let's go in the opposite direction and go for the hype, which is as intense as any other.
Or negativity.
But in the negative direction, which is Deshaun Watson is still ass.
Yeah. A lot of bad throws in there.
He just sucks. Like, Deshaun Watson is a terrible NFL quarterback now. And that's just the reality we live in. And I don't know. Like, I'm not really able to explain how he went from where he was to where he currently is.
You don't know if he was just trying stuff
all the time.
Throwing late in the red zone.
Like, he's got, people remember when he first came back off the suspension, when he first got to Cleveland, it was like, he's rusty. Yeah. Well, now he's got the kind of rust that's like the whole frame is, disintegrated. It's in pieces. Like, the car doesn't exist anymore. Like, we've got to replace everything. He's done. Like, this is not, any idea that, Todd Monken, new offense, new system, he's not Stefanski, he's not the problem. He'll be able to get the best version or something like it. No, Deshaun Watson is just a bad NFL player now.
Do you think we'll see him in the preseason a little bit, competing for his job? I think we'll have
because they're going to have to. Like, because I don't think they're particularly enamored by Shador either. So they're just giving people reps, desperately hoping that somebody stops playing like crap.
Circling back to Cleveland, though, in receiver hype, Denzel Boston.
Yeah.
Getting a lot of hype.
Benjamin Solak on his training camp tour was giving him all kinds of hype.
Hearing that from other places as well, besides Solak. And so that's another, I'm buying it because Pryor's. Denzel Boston. I'll just say storyline-wise, I think Bills fans should be keeping an eye on this because we tried to tell them going into the draft, I was like, hey,
it's actually a good fit for you.
They got mad every time Denzel Boston was mocked to them in the late
first.
They
hated it.
And I was like, I know he's a big-bodied receiver, and you've got a little PTSD from
right.
Keon Coleman and every other receiver you invested in, but Denzel Boston's actually good.
It's like, what if he's not Keon Coleman?
Yes. He's a little – look, I mean, the draft is funky. It doesn't mean, like, he could have a better career than Carnell Tate, right? I liked Tate more than Denzel Boston. But there's a little – I think when I was watching Boston, I think there's a lot of similarities to what I loved about Carnell Tate, where, yes, you have the size and even more size with Boston and weight and physicality, but good hands, good route runner. I think Tate's a little bit better route runner, but I think Boston was fine there. I think he attacks the ball well. He catches the ball in contested situations well. But I think – I'm not picking on Bills fans, but I think they got, and maybe some other fan bases got, a little bit of that PTSD from the 6'3", 6'4", receivers in recent years. But I would say, I can't remember if I said it during draft time, Boston's closer to like a Cortland Sutton big-bodied receiver than the guys that can't separate at all.
Yeah.
So
particularly deep.
It's too early for victory laps always, but I mean, I'm not surprised by it because I think Boston's good.
Yeah, particularly deep. Like I thought he actually separated well on that vertical route tree, which is where he was best anyway. It's like he, in a weird way, I felt he was a perfect fit for Buffalo, for the thing that they've been crying out for a while.
What else do we have on either side of things here?
Back to Kansas City, Peter Woods. So some defensive players. Peter Woods has apparently looked dominant, as is our Mason Thomas, actually. This idea of this Kansas City roster looks pretty weak unless all of the young guys are good. And if all the young guys are good, and currently the hype is with a lot of them, they're actually in a much better spot than they look.
That's where Chiefs fans are saying, man, that was the 2022 season where it's like, all right, it's supposed to be a reset year unless Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis and, well, Sky Moore. But like the loaded 2022 class, which we found out later was loaded, if they all hit the ground running, it's like, all right, now they're winning the Super Bowl.
Or that, that Detroit Lions draft class where everybody dumped on it because it was players of, lower value. But if they all hit, immediately you jump forward relative to where you were supposed to be.
Peter Woods is looking really good. And I remember at draft time we said, first off, he was supposed to. Is there signal in the fact that he was supposed to be a top 5 to top 10 player coming into the season? Is there signal? And I looked at the data and said there is a little bit of signal in the player who was hyped the second to last year and then took a step back his final year.
I also
it
didn't
doesn't
quite
feel,
like his tape.
But and plus, he showed really good traits and he was unbelievably productive early in his career, and just production took a bit of a hit last year, but so did everybody on Clemson.
Right.
But there is signal in either looking at, it's not so much hype going into the year, it's more the full body of work. And the signal that I came up with was more, okay, this is a buy low opportunity. And Peter Woods was a really good buy low. Okay, he probably could have been a top 15 or top 10 pick, and you're getting him in the late first. That's been decent value historically, even though it doesn't feel great. And it's actually better value than the players who just peaked in their final year.
And he had this weird thing with his weight where he was better the bigger he was, despite being used in a sort of weird, like the heavier he was, the more inclined Clemson seemed to be to line him up out wide, away from, like, it's a bizarre way they used him. It does feel like there's a dominant player to be had in Peter Woods, and maybe the Chiefs have found one.
Darius Alexander for the Giants has been getting a
lot
of hype.
Wasn't that just like one interception?
It's been starting with the first unit. I mean, I don't know if that matters a lot, but
tandem pass rushers. David Walker, remember the Brandon Graham clone from a year ago from Central, where was he from? Central Arkansas. Where's David Walker from?
Central Arkansas.
Yeah. Central Arkansas, and then Reuben Bain. Those two, short-armed, undercut, smaller but incredibly difficult to block pass rushers have both been carving up Tampa Bay Bucs training camp, including a video where Bain wrecked Luke Gedeke.
Was it a screen?
No, it wasn't.
Not a screen?
It was, I think, a one-on-one, though. So,
you never know.
It's always hard.
I mean, the one-on-ones, too, it's like, here, watch this win by the offensive tackle. It's like, the guy got bull rushed into, what do you mean it's not a win? Like, the interpretation of it. I like the people who just said, here's the one-on-one.
This looked like a fairly clean win, but, you never know.
Oh, I'm not questioning you. I'm saying other people. Darius Alexander, he did have that big interception, which, by the way, he had at Toledo in a bowl game. It might have been a pick 6. So he's got great coverage ability for a defensive tackle. But, forcing incompletions, getting pressure. Reports that he might be the starter next to DJ Reader. I'm buying it because of priors
for Alexander.
But it's an important one. Like the Giants' defensive tackle group after trading Dexter Lawrence could be one of the worst in the league unless DJ Reader turns back the clock a couple years and Darius Alexander develops. If that happens, all of a sudden that defensive front looks that much stronger. So it's an important one to keep an eye on.
It is. Speaking of Dexter Lawrence, though, Dexter has also been getting a ton of training camp hype. He looks like the vintage Dexter Lawrence. Like, the dude is destroying plays in the backfield. He's insta-wins. He's wrecking everybody. He's trash-talking Joe Burrow. Like, it's looking like we're getting the real Dexter Lawrence.
Buying. 100%. Motivate. I'm going to buy it all. It's hype season. Keep hyped. Look at Eli, the quickest trigger from Eli to post some positive.
He's been waiting for that the whole time.
Bengals footage. I mean, we were talking Browns, and he's like, where's the Bengals? Where's the Bengals footage? Let's get it up there. Let's just keep it on loop with Dexter Lawrence. There's also been a bit of like the added, like the defenses competing with the offense there, and there's the attitude.
But this is the thing, like,
they feel that sense of urgency. I don't know if there's signal in that, but you're sensing that more from the Bengals, which we might be able to see in person someday. At training camp.
Not only, I think, are you going to be getting the best version of Dexter Lawrence, the football player, I think he's bringing a steel and a leadership to that side of the ball that wasn't there either. Like, he immediately started basically trash talking Joe Burrow, and people asked him about it. He's like, yeah, look, somebody needs to do that, right? Like, to get the best version of Burrow, he needs to have somebody on this side of the ball challenging him, and it's got to be me. And he's probably right? Like, there's no way anybody on that defense last year had the balls to challenge Joe Burrow in any meaningful way, right? Even a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who was of the stature or of the caliber that he could, wouldn't. He's not that type of guy, right? Dexter Lawrence is out here going, no, like, we're going to make your life difficult, and that's a good thing for you. And I think he's right. Like, I'm excited for what Dexter Lawrence is going to bring. And again, if they get the real Dexter Lawrence back 100%, I genuinely think that's a top 10 football player in the NFL, regardless of position.
In a similar vein, Caleb Downs getting hyped up as advertised.
What if he's just as good as he was all the way through his college career, and that the entire draft process was an exercise in overthinking him?
But it's tough to have that force multiplier effect as a safety. But what if he's that player? Not only can move around the defensive formation, but just stability on the back end where Dallas really lacked last year. In addition to all of those defensive line additions that we talked about and the replacing Parsons in the aggregate over the last year, what if all that does come together and the Cowboys, look, if they're in that top 5 offense mix, which I think they are, defense just has to creep back toward average. If Caleb Downs has that kind of impact, he's getting hyped up in that way about how he just sees the game and adds that to the defense.
That's the most, backing up my priors one of all time. Caleb Downs looks amazing. Well, he always looked amazing. Therefore, he'll be amazing. I'm buying.
He recovered a fumble, so he just
there you go.
Football instinct.
Let me give you one. The Rams worked out a little unknown football player yesterday in Aaron Donald. Apparently, Donald, in this meticulous, incredibly strategized, planned out return to play protocol that he's constructed for himself, decided that he wanted to do a workout in a helmet, right? And apparently the only place he could get the helmet that he wanted was the Rams facility, which mandated that they had to list him as like a participant, like they had to report to the NFL that Aaron Donald worked out because he used some of their equipment. Which apparently is why that took place. But again, in this crazy return to play protocol, it's taken another step forward, and that Donald was sort of there at training camp working alongside, if not exactly with, the Rams.
So it showed up on the wire.
Correct.
Showed up on the wire.
I am so excited for this idea that we might actually see Aaron Donald retire. We had Les Snead talk about it a little bit, and he was sort of making the point that what if, like, Donald himself is such a maniac, he's not coming back if he doesn't think he can be really good, right? Like, he's not a guy that this just looks cool, so I'm going to unretire and be 50% of the player that I used to be and be happy with that. Like, part of the reason this is such a crazy, drawn-out, long, extended, prolonged process from Donald is he wants to be sure that he's satisfied himself that he can be the type of player that he needs to be. And it's like, what if he's still Donald? Like, what if Donald comes back, and okay, maybe he's not 100%, but what if he's like 90% of Aaron Donald, right? Yeah. He's 2 years younger than Cam Hayward, who's playing as good ball as anybody at defensive tackle.
And they're loaded on the defensive line even without him. They're obviously, but even if it's just 30 snaps.
And by the way, he's a unicorn, right? Derrick Henry, the rules don't apply to Derrick Henry because he's a freak, right? The rules don't apply to Aaron Donald. He's maybe the best defensive player in the history of the game. Certainly the best defensive player this century. Reggie White won Defensive Player of the Year at 37, right? Donald's 35. He could be another 3-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner if he comes back. I'm just saying, Donald probably isn't the player that he was when he left, right? But what if he's close?
But remember when Richie Incognito and a few others retired and they took a year off, and so it's 2 years off here.
That was the point Les was making. Like that's 2 years he's had to heal and recover and not
you
be in a car
different.
crash every weekend, right? And also, again, that other point of this is the first time since his rookie season that he won't be double teamed every play.
Yeah.
Right? Myles Garrett is there, right? If they line up together, you can only realistically double team one of them. The other one is singled up for the first time for either of them in years.
Could be an incredible defense.
I am extremely buying the training camp hype, which in his case was he worked out yesterday.
Buying all the Donald hype.
Yes.
All right, who else do we have to talk about here?
Go back to your Daniel Jones, who's looking good. He's back. He's healthy.
He's back and looking good.
He's ready to go. Another Solak one, though, from his training camp tour. He said, look, if you didn't tell me that guy was injured, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
That's significant because that's not something I think that you could have said for either Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins.
Would you
they
say
were visibly not physically there?
Have you seen the Mahomes clips? Would you say, because again, it's eye of the beholder and the interpretation. I think Mahomes got like a little bit of a limp there.
I think he's still favoring.
But they're giving him keepers and everything. Like
but he's not supposed to be like 100% yet.
So Jones looking healthy.
Yeah.
And I go back to, I don't know what this means. You and I went to Colts-Packers joint practice last year, and I thought there was the day that we saw, I don't think Jones looked that much better than Anthony Richardson on that particular day. So, take that for what it's worth.
Sure.
Then you get into the season, and Jones is the starter, and he's the most efficient quarterback in the NFL through the first, 8 or 9 weeks, whatever it was. So, yeah, I think that's a big development. If he's back to what he was at the beginning of the season last year, that's huge for the Colts.
I think it's really significant if he's not visibly physically diminished, right?
Yeah.
Like if he, because that's the thing. We've had this new timeline of accelerated Achilles recoveries, but it's coincided with the guys that popped their Achilles being 35 plus, and they've come back fast, but they haven't looked the same once they've come back. It's
right.
like, but is that just because they're 35 or 40? And it's like when you're old as hell, stuff doesn't rebound the same way. Daniel Jones is 28, 29. So he's the first guy that's like the right side of 30, still in the elasticity of youth world. Is he able to bounce back and look exactly the same? It's short term. It's only, it's pretty small sample size of data, but like so far the reports are, yes, he's back fast and looks visibly the same as he did before he left.
Who else we got to talk about here?
Well, who from your list do you want to hit? And then I'll read you through some of the people that were tweeted at me as training camp stars.
Well, some of the other notes that we have here. Fernando Mendoza,
okay.
Looking good, looking the part.
Mm-hmm.
Backup quarterback for the Raiders.
Yeah, backup. Mm-hmm.
Kyle Pitts, best he's looked.
Yeah.
I'll just say in the debate of...
I'm going to sell that in as far as I don't anticipate. Last year was a career year from Kyle Pitts. I would be surprised if he matched it.
No, buy it all. Keep buying it. In the debate of do you draft younger players or does it matter if they're 20, 21 or if they're on the 23 or whatever it may be, this is one where to me, the risk in drafting the young player is you get him before he properly develops and then don't re-sign him. But this does have a chance to be really good for the Falcons where this is the time when the tight ends tend to shine, right? Years 4 through 7 when they tend to take a step forward. And I'm going to say it's real.
Okay.
I buy it all. I'm a sucker for the training camp hype here, Sam.
You are a sucker for training camp hype as well as pre-draft stuff.
There's also reports that Trevion Henderson's still struggling in pass pro.
Which is so strange given what he was coming out.
Well, so the problem is...
That was, I guess, talked about as a strength.
It was. The problem, I think, coming out when you're looking at running backs in pass pro, the way it's usually evaluated is, does he step up, set his feet, get in position, and make the block? But 90% of pass blocking is half mental, as Yogi Berra would say. 90% of baseball is half mental. Or half of baseball is 90% mental. The problem in pass protection in the NFL, it's not about necessarily technique and can you make the block. That's a factor. But it's, are you blocking the right guy? Are you seeing it? Are you scanning? Do you read the blitz and everything? And that's as much of a problem as anything else for running backs.
It is. I did think, though, that he demonstrated the ability to read the blitz as well in college, as well as make the block. But also... Well, I think a lot of his struggles in the NFL have been making the block, not just identifying it. Like, it's not just been guys are blowing past him unblocked and he's not picking up the right guy. It's been he's not making the block. Like, he's stepping up and getting beat by whoever it is that's on the blitz, which is really not what I would have expected given his college tape. Maybe it's just a sample size thing. Like, he just had, half a dozen great blocks in college, and that's not enough to make a prediction. Whatever.
Let's go to the Twitterverse.
Yeah.
Twitterverse. And also, in the chat, let us know.
Yeah. Let me read you some names and simply get your buy or sell.
So we don't even know if these are true. We're just going by people claimed that they're giving them the hype, and
Why would Twitter ever lie to me?
They would never.
Okay. I told you this, that So there are the ones that have been lighting it up all through training camp, and then there are the guys that had a great practice yesterday and therefore got named a lot. So Chuck Demings, the Vikings 6th round corner, lit it up yesterday. Had a great training camp, and therefore like 5 people mentioned him to me. Buy or sell?
Buying it. Good length. FCS player. If he's doing it in camp, he's going to make an impact with Brian Flores. Buy it all. This is type season.
Asante Samuel Jr. has apparently been making a lot of plays throughout training camp, not just yesterday. So for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I was about to say where again?
Right. Remember they signed him last year, basically injured, and then by the end of the year, he'd worked his way back onto the field.
Yes. Buy it.
Okay.
Coming back off injury a couple years ago, always been a pretty good, productive player. Buy it. Steelers are loaded.
Here's a real test for your positivity. Noted Steve whipping boy Riley Moss has apparently been having a great training camp.
I thought you were going to say Tyree.
No.
Yeah, it's not a whipping. It's not.
You hate Riley Moss.
I do not.
You're constantly trying to get him out of the lineup. There's a few players in the NFL that you
don't hate Riley Moss.
For some reason, Riley Moss is one of them.
I can love Jahdae Barron and hope that he's the guy without hating Riley Moss.
You want him out of the lineup. You think he's an embarrassment to the Denver Broncos.
Well, if Moss is that good, Broncos are going all the way.
There you go.
If he's that good with Surtain on the other side, they're going all the way.
Abdul Carter has been looking really good, giving Andrew Thomas all kinds of problems.
Of course, Abdul Carter is really good.
Okay.
Once again, reminding people that, we only had 5 sacks. No.
Yeah.
Dude was really good last year, and he'll be really good this year, too.
Rookie Dallas Cowboys linebacker Kayshon Boutte from Michigan has been having a great camp. Arguably the best player in the field for the Dallas Cowboys on defense.
Best player? Who's saying that?
ZD.
Just dude on Twitter saying best player
Correct.
in the field.
Multiple people have listed him. He's the only one that said arguably the best player in the field.
Man, if they've got Barham and they've got Caleb Downs, and Barham is your hybrid linebacker. Remember, his story at Michigan was he played linebacker, dabbled on the edge a little bit, and then fully moved to the edge during the season last year. Very Abdul Carter-ish, but not with that type of production. And, the connections, well, that's what Micah Parsons did in the NFL. So if Barham he feels like the guy that would flash at practice, because he's bull in the china shop type of player. He'll run through your face at tight end when he's lined up over him in the Sam type of role. So I buy that he's probably tearing up training camp, but I don't know if it'll carry forward. He's a good football player. I don't know if he's best player on the field good.
I mean, I'm not saying that part, but apparently he's been having a dominant training camp.
Yeah, it bodes well for Dallas. Again, just adding more playmakers to the defense.
A lot of people name Brandon Cece, the Green Bay Packers rookie corner, second rounder.
Once again, I don't vibe with Green Bay, but they hit on all their players, so it's fine.
I kind of like Cece.
No, Cece's good. He's got good size and footwork and everything. I didn't love him, but yeah, that's huge for the Packers, who he could step in and make an impact right away.
Friend of the show. I've never said
Darius Leonard?
No, I've never said this guy's second name out loud. Brian Nemhauser, Hawk blogger on Twitter.
Yeah, never said it out loud either.
Right.
Myself. Yeah.
So let's hope that's how it's said.
How'd he answer?
He gave me several players that have looked awesome so far. Byron Murphy II, obviously. Cooper Kupp, apparently resurgence, rejuvenation from him. Elijah Arroyo, tight end, who was
I've heard that with Arroyo
last season. And then Riley Mills.
Mills has been Notre Dame defensive tackle. This is multi-year hype for Seattle. When we talk about, every time we mention Boye Mafe's out and everything, it's like, don't forget, different position, but Riley Mills with Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy and all the depth that they have on the defensive line. Don't sleep on Riley Mills, comes up a lot for Seattle. He was a good player at Notre Dame. I could see it. And all those other players are good generally anyway. Arroyo could add.
Arroyo would be interesting.
He's got some stretch the seam ability. I think you have to protect him as a run blocker. I don't think he's better than a traffic cone at that, but he was a big slot. Remember when he came out, there was talk about him, and Schneider had hinted at we trust him maybe playing X, maybe playing on the outside. And at the time we said, well, JSN and Cooper Kupp, they don't have this true X. Maybe Arroyo's going to do that. So they've got some versatility there. Now we know JSN can do anything, what he did last year. But yeah, they bodes well for Seattle with all the weapons.
He is also another one of those guys, though, where it would make sense for him to look good in a training camp environment, absent pads sometimes. You know what I mean? He's so athletic, so big, fluid. It makes sense for him to look good in this environment.
He was one of our guys at the Senior Bowl, too. Remember, he was running away from linebackers.
He just obviously looks impressive, right? Yep. So that part does make some sense. Who else have I got? C.J. Daniels, I saw a few people talk up from the Rams.
Not surprised, model guy.
Wide receiver.
Multi-year model guy, both when he transferred to Miami and telling you after the fact, not surprised.
Oh,
C.J. Daniels.
One more Seahawks guy, which obviously I'm buying it. Bud Clark, safety from TCU.
Getting some
Bud Clark.
first team snaps?
Yeah.
For Bud?
Matthew Golden, a lot of people have been hyping up from Green Bay. Apparently not been, he's just been, honestly, it sounds a lot like the Romeo Doubs thing. He's just been making all the plays, in particular moving the chains. Not necessarily deep down the field, spectacular stuff, just always coming up with the catch for the Packers. They're just like plugging him right in, being like, you're Romeo Doubs for the purposes of this season.
Before the Combine,
Yes.
in my notes, when I wrote up Matthew Golden, I said Romeo Doubs type.
Yeah.
Before I knew he was fast, I watched the
On
film
tape.
and thought, he's a Romeo Doubs type. He's
Okay.
a 2. He's a guy who's got pretty good route running and gets open. And then he ran the 4.3, which didn't match the
Yeah.
tape. I know our friend, I think it was it Mohall that said, check out the Houston tape? Or Drake, one of our power listeners, said, check out the Houston tape. He looks faster. Fair.
Yeah.
But I remember watching him thinking, yeah, he looks like a complimentary 2, good route runner type. And then we were trying to reconcile the 4.3 speed that I didn't think always showed up on film. So that's, I'll say, not surprising to me then,
Okay.
based off initial reports.
Max Ihanacher, the Steelers' offensive tackle rookie, has been getting a lot of praise from Steelers media in particular.
I saw Pony, who would never exaggerate.
Never. Certainly not without risk to his nipples.
Pony said that he hasn't lost a rep in training camp. Now,
Pony.
Now, here's what I'll say. The irony in the Steelers beat writers caring about reps that aren't sacks. After years of telling us pass rush win rate doesn't matter, the whole Steelers beat, wins and losses don't matter.
Pressure
and
rate.
all of a sudden,
Almost plays.
pot meet kettle. You're over here giving us win-loss rate for offensive linemen. Unbelievable. So if he didn't give up a sack, he's 100% good. It's sacks only for Steelers media.
Sacks
I
only.
can't believe they're giving us win-loss rate. Those cavemen, Steelers beat writers,
We should,
talking about wins and losses for offensive linemen. Now it matters because it's training camp?
Yeah.
Interesting. How can I trust that? It means nothing. Selling means nothing, Steelers fans.
You're selling out of spite.
Wins and losses don't matter
Okay.
when it comes to pass rushing. I just got fired up.
Yeah, no, I saw that. Friend of the show, Nick Underhill. Let me read you a tweet. This sums up in a tweet from 22 hours ago. Rattlers leveled up, period. Some team should call about him. Rattler hype?
I retweeted it.
Buy or sell?
I'm in. Year 8 of Spencer Rattler.
Can I find a player that you're not going to be in on? Let me find. Who's the most ridiculous
If
name
you
on
tell me
this list?
Tyree Wilson's tearing it up at camp, I'll sell.
Oh, we got a Jacoby Lane.
Selling.
But he made a one-handed catch, and his
Selling.
coach likened him to Mike Thomas. Now, he said Mike Thomas, which to me, when they first came out, was the other Michael
Southern
Thomas.
Miss.
Yeah.
Southern Miss, Mike Thomas.
Now, if he meant that, maybe.
Not Michael.
If he meant Michael Thomas, the Ohio State receiver, New Orleans Saints, one of the best chain-moving receivers of his time, that's a harder sell.
I'm just going to read through all the tweets in real time. I was going to say, I'm going to sell it because I liked Elijah Surratt better. Their later pick. So I want Surratt to have that.
Lane was such a weird receiver in that
He was.
So the one thing, Ian Hartitz was tweeting this, like one-handed catches are nothing new for Lane. Like he's got a fairly ridiculous highlight reel of just one-handed catches. It's some other stuff that he struggles with, right? And he's got this incredibly smooth, gliding way of moving for a guy that big. He does, however, really struggle to separate a lot of times, and in particular with like physical coverage because he's so big but thin. He doesn't have a lot of weight to him. Like, if you get hands on him, you can really cause him problems. And that was the thing at the Senior Bowl. He made some plays, but, like, physical coverage gives him issues. So, again, I can imagine him making some spectacular plays, but I would want to see a lot more of that before I was willing to buy into it.
So you're selling. You're not buying yet.
I guess, yeah. Let's sell for the moment.
You're selling for now. Okay. Let me give you one in real time. It's Jenna Lane, from Bucks beat writer, So we'll give you some Bucs hype. She says, the more I see Josiah Trotter in pads, that's the second-round rookie linebacker out of Missouri, the more excited I get for his trajectory. Immediately upon a catch by tight end Cade Otton on a short pass, Trotter just drilled him into the ground. That is when you talk, sometimes in drafts, when you have attitude-changing drafts or, some consistency among the picks, we've talked a lot about what Ruben Bain brings to this defense as far as physicality and attitude and it factor or whatever you want to call it. Trotter has some of that too. He was a better run defender than coverage player at Missouri. He's out of position a lot, but he works downhill. He can hit hard. They brought in Alex Anzalone, who's an excellent coverage linebacker. But if Trotter holds his own, that is massive for the middle of that defense because they got picked apart. Savassi Dennis was awful last year in coverage. Has some similarities, right? Better run defender than coverage player, but if Trotter can, hold down that role, that means a lot.
Yeah.
So, just giving him some hype. Go. What else you got through your list?
I think so. I'm kind of eliminating people that have only been mentioned once. It feels like if only one person thinks they're having a good camp, it's probably not that real. One person, though, the only one I'm willing to give credence to, one person said that Hakeem Mesidor's looked very good.
Chargers.
Yeah.
First round pick. It's important. It's important for them.
People are still tweeting Chuck Demings at me.
I'm going to tweet him at you.
Charles Demings been the star of training camp, at least as of yesterday.
I've gotten a lot of the same names when I asked. Jacoby Lane, Peter Woods, Denzel Boston, got a Colston Loveland. I mean, he had real football hype last year. Phil Maffa. Cowboys backup running back. I don't think that's real. He fumbled one, so there's no way that's good.
There's always a buried on the depth chart random ass running back that everyone loves in training camp.
That's true.
Like there's a lot of those in the NFL.
I'm ready for games, man. Ready for games. The other massive winner from a hype standpoint, Substation.
The Substation is the winner of training camp so far.
Dominating.
I mean, there was that tweet that the 49ers had 20 players missing from practice yesterday. 20 of a 91-man roster or whatever it is. 90, 91? What are we at? But that's a huge number.
Yeah.
Like more than a fifth of your team is not playing.
They have been, what was it, Ryan Pagadetti had the number. They have been bottom 5 in adjusted games lost for 9 out of the last 10 years or something to that effect. The one year that they were randomly best was Super Bowl run. I mean, is it when you have one outlier season? Is there something there?
But bottom 5, you said, right?
Yeah.
Let's say if there was something to this idea, right? Like the myth. I tweeted this, right? I am of the opinion.
I'm not suggesting it's the Substation. I'm saying, is there something going on?
Yeah, of course, there's probably something going on. But I am of the opinion that, number one, there's nothing to the idea that the Substation is actually causing a dramatic spike of injuries for the San Francisco 49ers just because they practice in the shadow of it. And number two, almost every tweet about the Substation is funny, and I will continue to both laugh at them and retweet them when appropriate.
Substation's got its own account now.
Right. The fact that it took that long for that to happen is kind of amazing. It tweeted at me, actually, the Substation account, because I had the thing. But the picture,
Twitter would have been on that
immediately,
earlier.
Right?
Yeah.
The picture of the Substation looking like Mordor was pretty good. I like that one.
That was good.
But there's a bunch of them. Look, the number of people that are giving this credence just because there's a lot of injuries to the 49ers is nuts. If it was that obvious a cause and effect, the 49ers would be the most injured team in the NFL, without question, every single year, and there would probably be a pretty large gap between them and the next team. You just said they're bottom 5 in 4 out of 5 years or whatever it is. It's like that's not Aaron Donald outlier world by yourself, right? Which they're the only team that practices right next door to a Substation.
I don't think that's how that works.
Of course it is.
No, it's not.
If the Substation was like 20% of the team is out injured at the moment, almost, right? If the Substation caused 20% of your roster to be injured on a regular basis, you would be by far the most injured team in football every single year. Your outlier year would push you like into the middle of the pack.
I disagree. You're wrong. It's
Why?
not how, because that's not how probability works.
Of course, if it's that big of an impact.
If the point is, you're taking something that you're taking just games missed. I don't know how, because I think it was using Aaron Schatz, our guest on Monday. I was using his adjusted games lost. I'm not sure exactly how it's calculated, but I assume if someone tears an ACL in week 15, you're not just like, well, he missed 3 games. It's only 3 games. It's an ACL. It's projected out to a season. So let's say it's a good number that we're using. It's already a noisy, fluky-ish type of number because injuries are generally variable, right?
Yeah.
Just like a lot of things in football. So it's already this noisy number. So it's already going to fluctuate. If we had no outside factors, a team could finish top 5 or they could finish 28th, right? We don't really know what that's going to happen. There's a lot of luck involved. If there's an outside factor that just increases those odds, it doesn't mean that the odds would immediately be, well, they're 32nd for 10 straight years, therefore it's this outside factor. We don't know if there was this outside factor and you eliminated it, maybe one year the Niners would have just been 15th from a variance perspective, but now they're 28th. And then the next year they would have been 20th, and now they're 30th. Or then they would have been 22nd, and now they're 32nd. That's how it can have an outside factor can have an impact, and it doesn't have to be black and white. Oh, they're last every single year. Now, and then they had the one year where they were first, 2023. They were the healthiest team in the NFL. Like, outliers happen in football. So again, I'm just saying is there something with the training staff and the way they practice and the way there's a lot of things that might go into this, or it could just be fluky. Who knows? But just because something isn't always Aaron Donald outlier doesn't mean it doesn't have an impact.
No, my point is if it's being blamed as a significant enough impact to make the 49ers a bottom 5 most injured team in the NFL over a 5-year period, they would be the most injured team in the NFL. If it's that powerful that it can make them one of the most injured teams in football, it would make them by far the most injured team in football because they're the only team in the NFL practicing 6 feet away from the substation. The fact that, in one season,
It's either, if it's capable of moving the needle at all, then, and it's only moved them as far as it's moved them, it's basically an irrelevance.
But look at it. But don't look at the season level, because the season is just an arbitrary start and end point. I assume if they were bottom 5 over a 10-year period, when you look at that 10-year period, they are the most injured team in the NFL. I can't imagine who would be worse than that. So they are. They are the most injured team over a 10-year period, most likely.
No, I don't think that's true. And in particular, when you break it down further and you look at players that have been on the team who have been somewhere else before and somewhere else after, the numbers, they're no more injured with the 49ers than they are previously or postly. Like if the substation was a thing, right, as soon as a guy rocked up in San Francisco, he would have, like, his legs would fall off, right? He wouldn't be as injured in whatever stop he was before as he is in the 49ers, and then as injured the next stop. You would be able to see, here's his baseline, and then he hits San Francisco, and then he leaves San Francisco. You'd be able to see that. Not with the one player necessarily, but you would be able to see that over players over the period of time.
You're assuming a 100% hit rate for whatever the Niners are doing. We're not claiming substation. We're saying whatever the Niners are doing, practice-wise, medical team, substation, whatever the factors could be. You're claiming 100% hit rate. And if I don't see 100% hit rate, meaning every player comes in, gets unhealthy, and then is healthy when they leave, you're trying to find that.
I'm not. I'm saying that.
And if it's not that, you're saying, well, it must not work.
No, I'm saying
it must not be a thing.
I'm saying you should see something, and then at the moment you don't see anything.
All I'm telling you is I would like to know who the more injured team is over that 10-year period. I don't think to prove that there's something going on there, you have to say, well, they're 32 out of 32 every single year, therefore it's the thing. If they are 32nd by a wide margin over a 10-year period, with the same coaching staff, with a lot of the same staff, you could probably look at it and say, okay, what's happening
the other
here?
thing is there's half a dozen things you should be looking at before you even start talking about a substation.
I'm not talking about I'm saying any factor.
Yeah, but other people are.
I know. I'm curious about can teams solve this?
The biggest,
with all of the information that they have right now, can you literally be a top 5 healthiest team every single year, or like in that mix? Or are you doing something so detrimental that you're going to be in the bottom 5 every single year? And if you are, which the Niners are close to, then, figure out what's going on.
The biggest and most obvious thing to point to would be the strength and conditioning coach, in my opinion. The guy who's theoretically, in charge of basically keeping everybody healthy. And
I agree, and I don't know enough of, have they changed this person every 3 years? Has it been the same guy for the entire Shanahan regime? It's also not just strength and conditioning. It's the whole medical staff. They have, it's a massive staff, right? You have trainers, you have rehab staff, and every team is different. I was talking about 32 different business models. We talked about the Packers have their own rules for return to injury when it comes to ACLs. Yeah. Everybody's got their own style. And even when you have all those rules, does it impact one player? Does it impact a bunch? Does it always keep you at the higher end of health? Health is just a noisy thing when it comes to football. But I don't know if teams have found any edges or just things that they should always avoid. And fascinated to know if the Niners are missing something here. Are they missing something? Or is it the substation?
Their strength and conditioning coach has been the head strength and conditioning coach for the last 4 years, and the previous 2, he was an assistant strength and conditioning coach. So they've had one guy as a constant line through that for 6 years.
He probably looked like a star in 2023. What else you want to talk about? Guy in the chat says we spent too much time talking about, are you new here? Too much time talking about Bijan's contract.
Okay.
I'm trying to get a 2-hour show here. We haven't had a chance to freewheel talk whatever we want in a while.
Sure. What about the opposite, the negative again? We're going to really dumped on Deshaun Watson, but everybody at the Cardinals is bad. There's a highlight video, a low light video right there of everything bad. and okay, you whinged about, people.
I sell negativity.
Former NFL players have been like, there's no way this is a real NFL practice. This is a joke.
Wow. Are they that bad?
Yeah, apparently. I mean, based on okay, it's a low light video, so it's going to be bad, but I think this is all taken from this year, and it is spectacularly pathetic.
I buy into the extremes. Remember 2 years ago, the Eagles and Patriots had a joint practice, and our friend Phil Perry and the other beat writers, cousin Doug and everybody, when they reported back the stats, and it was Drake May went 9 for 16 and was sacked 9 times.
Right.
And I'm buying that.
9's a problem.
Absolutely buying it. They got sacked 9 times, and then it was could have been 3 more, but he got the throw off. But probably it's they almost got sacked 10 times on 25 plays. You kidding me? Yeah, I'm buying that. The extremes I'm buying. If the Cardinals are extremely that bad, if it's that bad, I'd buy that. We'll see tonight.
And remember
the Hall of Fame game.
And remember, they have the hardest schedule in the NFL by a mile.
And they've had extra days of practice. They started earlier.
Yeah, this is a team that currently looks like they stink, facing one of the toughest schedules in the entire league by a distance, with no real quarterback, and Nathaniel Hackett as their offensive coordinator. This is a team that might be in trouble.
The reason why I would sell it is
this is a low light video.
They have more talent than the team that picked number 3 overall. They have more talent than that.
Theoretically,
both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
So
I mean, a Walter Nolan being back would help a lot, all the season. But what if Marvin Harrison's just not good?
I saw people. I mean, I've seen some of the drops and the bad stuff that he's done. I've seen a lot of people put the side by side between him and Michael Wilson and be it just looks so much slower with Marvin. Which he's a lot those right? It should be that.
It's hard. I mean, there are guys, smaller guys. I mean, Michael Wilson's not small, but those things can be deceiving. Just because a guy's moving his legs faster doesn't mean he's actually moving faster. Randy Moss didn't look fast when he was gliding past people at 1,000,000 miles an hour because he's 6'5" and motoring. He didn't look Darren Sproles looked faster than Randy Moss because his little legs were moving quickly.
Yeah. I just don't, because other people hey, here's the other side of the Marvin Harrison thing. Here's some really good plays from camp.
Yeah.
Some of it's
a lot of really bad plays.
No, I know. But that was his season last year, right? The bad plays were really bad for
But it's
Marvin.
your thing, right? How many of those deep diving touchdowns do you need to offset 5 drops?
Yeah. He did have, he's better than Jalen Reagor and some of those guys that were hey, every time this guy's out there, there's a chance, bad stuff's happening to the point where it's causing turnovers.
Yeah.
Bad routes and drops and just being just off. Marvin has a lot of those things to his game, but he's also much better at He can run routes. He can get in and out of breaks. He can catch the ball.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
But also, if
he can win contested catches. Right. He can do everything. It's just he's got some really detrimental plays that can lead to turnovers and are bad.
If, as we have speculated, his confidence is just in the floor, right now, a consistent string of drops is not going to help that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's less how detrimental is the drop to the team or to that drive. It's does that drop tank his confidence again that was already around his ankles? That part is going to become a problem for him.
I was looking through some of the list of negatives that I've accumulated, and Seahawks guard Christian Haynes popped up a lot. He's more of a backup guard and everything, but it's because every note is him losing to Byron Murphy. Yeah, it's Byron Murphy's fault.
Who might become, he could be the best defensive tackle in the NFL next year.
Including Gray Zabel losing to Byron Murphy, right? Byron Murphy's getting a lot of hype right now, and he's already been good, but it's been an upward trajectory. He's already really strong, athletic, anchors well, gets after the quarterback. Yeah, there's a chance Byron Murphy moves to star status if he's not even already there.
Yeah, legitimately could be the best defensive tackle in the football.
What else is going on? What else we got in the chat here?
What's your list say? You've got the work.
I haven't checked about these most negatives. It's a bunch of guys that were hurt. Who's had the most negative notes?
Injury people.
Per the system that searched it. Chris Brazel, Jonathan Grenard. I haven't seen why.
Oh, he was injured as well.
So, injury for him. Deshaun Watson, most negative.
The only one that hasn't been injured.
Omar Norman Lott, he's been banged up. Yeah. Bijan is on the negative list.
Really?
Again, I haven't looked into
drop
why.
A ball or something?
A lot of injured players. Malik Neighbors has been 50% positive and 50% negative for some reason. But Neighbors does look good.
I've only seen hype. Yeah, I've only seen positive about him because we were worried about him going into this training camp because of the last thing anyone had seen is a video of him hobbling around in a home run derby.
I think some of it's limited.
Yeah.
Pup list. But when he's been out there, he's been looking good.
Yeah. It was like a Jordan Tyson thing where the second that he actually moved around, it was we're good again. Malik Neighbors is fine now.
Yeah, I think most of it's he's just limited. Who else was on the up list, the high list? Darius Alexander, Chop Robinson. I'll just read names. Travis Hunter, Caleb Downs, Kobe Durant, Cowboys corner, Max Crosby, stock up, Sam Ehlinger, back up in Denver, quarterback, Justin Herbert, MVP candidate, Denzel Boston, Jayshon Barham, Max Ahanicher, Parker Washington, a lot of guys that Claude did a good job pulling out positivity. Those are all the same guys that were mentioned everywhere else. Deontay Banks.
Look at us here.
Cornerback
or reaping what we sow, Right here being AI is the demise of humanity. Meanwhile, we're Claude coding training camp.
You can use it for good.
You can, but people won't.
You can use it for good.
That's the problem.
Both things can be true. Just like the Substation can be not real, but also funny at the same time. Rashawn Slater, bouncing back from a scare injury-wise, Mohall reminds us. That's huge for your MVP. Chat says Michael Taft could start for Miami. Safety from Texas. The Dolphins might not win a lot of games, but I'm going to be real interested in watching that draft class because they really could have 5, 6, 7 rookie contributors on that team. And you might be coming out of the season saying, hey, I know they won 3 games, but, man, they have a really good foundation in Miami.
We did a little fun exercise yesterday, and one of the sort of tasks was here are 3 teams, construct the argument that this team will win the Super Bowl, right? And the 3 options were the Arizona Cardinals, the New York Jets, and the Miami Dolphins, right?
What was this exercise?
It was a game show of some description. TBD. Keep an eye out.
Get the hype up. Game show. Football game show coming. Are we allowed to hype
Probably not. So that's about as far as I would go.
Okay.
The Dolphins, though, were a kind of interesting one because it's such a young roster now. And in this world where they're running the Green Bay Packers playbook, right? Metaphorically. They brought in Green Bay coaches, Green Bay personnel people. They drafted like Green Bay. The Packers have had the youngest roster in the NFL for like 5 straight years, and they've been a good football team. Now they found Jordan Love. That's a pretty big, important part of it. They also took a quarterback from Green Bay, and Malik Willis. Like, okay, this roster doesn't look good, and they have a really hard schedule. But if that rookie class hits, like this team could probably surprise some people and be better than people think they are. Now, there's a long way between that and the Super Bowl, so that's where the challenge is. But they are, I think, kind of an interesting team in a way that Arizona might just not be. Like what if the Cardinals just stink?
I mean, Arizona's interesting with the playmakers, man.
Only if, they have a quarterback and coach and environment good enough to show anything. But
rookies are always more intriguing because they're mystery boxes still.
Yeah.
You still don't really know. And like I said, they have 13 draft picks. And
a lot of them we liked. Like Jacob Rodriguez, like some guys we loved in that.
Yeah, Jacob Rodriguez, Chris Johnson. Get to see what Caden Proctor does at guard. Taff is, what was he, 4th or 5th round? 5th round? I mean, you steal that, on day 3. More intrigued by Miami than maybe we should be at this point.
Yeah.
I'm ready for some football to start. We get the Hall of Fame game tonight. Are we going to go to 3 shows next week? We have enough to talk about?
I think that's what you decided we were doing, right?
I keep thinking the Hall of Fame game's tonight, and then we're going to be watching games all weekend, but I forgot it's like another week off before we get to see more games. So we'll have the Hall of Fame game tonight, Panthers and Cardinals. We're not making the trip unless we leave now. Let me see. Do you think Eric can get us on the field? Never asked.
I can't, so
I can't really go
report
either.
back if you like.
If I told Kelly I'm leaving again, yeah, right.
Did you see Mike Sando's great piece every year, the tiers, quarterback tiers, where he talks to a bunch of coaches, executives, blah, blah, and they all tier NFL quarterbacks. And actually the list ends up in a pretty good spot. It's the more interesting things to me are always the outliers, It's like which crackpot put a guy in a tier that they don't have any business being in, even if we, by averaging it out, basically lop off the impact of that one vote. My favorite one so far, there is one person, I don't know if it's a coach or an executive, one individual believes Aaron Rodgers is a tier 1 quarterback right now.
That's the old quote that you always.
That's a hell of a sell. I would like to hear that.
Tom Brady and Peyton Manning
Seriously.
are 1 and 2 in perpetuity forever until they retire.
So I think that is keeping Mahomes in tier 1 right now.
I have a theory.
But I would like to hear this human construct the argument that Aaron Rodgers is currently a tier 1 quarterback in today's NFL.
I have a theory because Jeremy Fowler does a similar exercise, but for all positions, for Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. And he surveys league executives, coaches, and scouts. That's his survey group. I believe Sando said, I forget the exact number. If he has 12 people, 9 of them are coaches. Something like that. It's more. I think he has a higher number of coaches.
Right. Coaches skewed into the tier 2 for Rodgers, and executives, personnel guys skewed into tier 3.
My theory is the coaches don't know personnel. Not overall, but just they certainly don't know personnel up to date at the same level as executives and scouts. So they're more likely to say, of course, Mahomes is Mahomes until proven otherwise, without actually diving into the tape. Because if you're a coach who did not have to play the Chiefs last year, you didn't actually watch Mahomes in the offense, right?
Yeah. Sando's point was more the personnel guys are more focused on what a guy can do now, sort of physically, talent-wise, whereas the coaches are more interested in what a guy can still do with his mind, like the mental aspect of the game.
But also, the executives are more 32 teams. The coaches may have only watched. That's just reality. There's no reason for them. If you're not playing the Chiefs or you're not playing the Bills, there's no reason to watch them. And they're not going to be like, let me grind some tape so I can give Sando some good answers.
Right.
They're probably not going to be doing that. You know what I mean? So I think the coaches are more likely to lean on priors or the players that they just saw this last year. The executives and the scouts, I think, are more likely to update their thoughts. But I don't know. I could be wrong there. My point was it wasn't that big a deal. But like Sando's list had Mahomes 1, Jeremy Fowler's list had him 2, including a lowest ranking of 9.
Yeah.
And then my theory on the lowest ranking things is people were just like, oh, he's hurt. So
yeah, I think
best ability is availability. He might be hurt this year.
I think injuries. Yeah, I think injuries is a lot of it, which may be silly, but I do think that idea. Look, we talked about this before. There was an NFL executive somewhere
who back in the day basically said that Peyton Manning and Tom Brady are QBs 1 and 2 until they retire, regardless of how they play, right? Which to me is just a preposterous notion. But there is clearly a school of thought within the NFL that once you have sort of set this definitive line of like, I am this good, right? You are that forever, right? That is the line that you have shown us you can play at. Therefore, that is how good you are, no matter how you're actually playing or for how long you're playing at a line that is not that line, right? There are clearly people that believe that. And to some degree, given what we know about all the confounding variables and the impact of coaching and receivers and offensive line, all these other things, there's some degree of sense to that. Like once you've shown us you can play at a level, it's potentially reasonable to say that everything that's changed since that is other things, not you. It is, however, I think kind of ridiculous once you reach a certain point where we're several years into this. The guy hasn't been near that level for a while now, and you're still telling me he's the best player in the NFL. Feels kind of ridiculous. Also, when Peyton Manning was getting his geriatric ass dragged to a second Super Bowl by the Denver defense, if you had gone out there and said, Peyton Manning's the best quarterback in the NFL, it would have been utterly ridiculous. And that's where we are, I think, with Rodgers right now. Like, for you to make the argument that Aaron Rodgers right now is a tier 1, he's the same as Josh Allen, to me is insane.
Yeah, obviously that's absurd.
But there's a guy out there that thinks that.
Can we get the tier picture up there, Eli? I sent you the tweet, but just the picture. Because I think that was the bigger story with the Sando thing. He put, I'd have to see the exact criteria, but when you read the criteria out, it makes sense why you'd have Mahomes tier 1, because it's like, doesn't have weaknesses, can carry the team, and then tier 2 is like has a distinct weakness or whatever it may be. Like nobody's going to list Mahomes be like distinct weakness, even though his production's been down the last few years. You're not looking at him from a skill set standpoint, being like, man, he's really lacking something. So I kind of get it. But what was more, I think what stood out to me more is that there was 4 tier 1 quarterbacks.
Yeah, which I think is the right place to draw the line. I might argue which 4, but I think 4 is the correct spot to draw that.
Yeah, and then tier 2 is numbers 5 through 17.
Yeah, which also feels about right. I think generally the list is good.
I think tier 2. I mean, I'd put Lamar in tier 1. So tier 1 was Mahomes, Allen, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow. I'd put Lamar Jackson in tier 1. So I'd argue Stafford either way because I don't think he's been a tier 1 quarterback for more than 1 year in a row in his career.
Right.
I would almost say I don't know if there's in my head, tier 2 is always like 4 quarterbacks. But that might just be because the last decade of football, I keep saying the last decade, but like 15 years ago, 10 to 15 years ago, there was a distinct top 4, and there was a second tier for quite a while. There was Ben Roethlisberger, there was Phillip Rivers, there was Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson. There were guys that you're like, these guys are not as good as Brady, Manning, Breeze, and Rodgers. Pretty clear. But there was like 4 or 5 tier 2 guys. And then there's tier 3. I don't know if there's a distinct tier 2 right now. I think you'd argue Drake May and Justin Herbert.
Well, that's the thing.
But then you get into like Dak, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy. And I'm like, I think I would almost go tier 3. There's a lot of tier 3 quarterbacks. And that guy, for me, can play like a top 5 to 8 quarterback in any given season. They just don't do it as often.
That's what I think the tier 2 is. That's why I think I kind of like the way they have it. There's part of me that wants to have another tier in there and say, I think you're right. Lamar belongs in tier 1, so I would take him out of this discussion. But like the Justin Herberts, the Drake May, who almost won MVP last season, there's a couple of quarterbacks in there who could be tier 1 quarterbacks pretty quickly or going forward or whatever, and maybe they deserve to be separated from a Brock Purdy or a current version of Trevor Lawrence or a Baker Mayfield or whatever. Like maybe we need to separate, maybe we need to drive another line in that tier 2. But overall, the tier 2 is interesting to me because it's 12 guys deep, and it's a list of guys who any of whom could have an all-pro season if they catch fire that year, right? And even the guys that I've just basically besmirched in that. Like Baker Mayfield was getting MVP chance through a month of the season deservedly. Like he was playing like an MVP for a month of the year, right? Baker Mayfield has shown he's capable of really high-end seasons. Maybe not consistently, maybe it's not particularly likely, but it's at least theoretical. Darnold has been as good as, most quarterbacks in the NFL over the last 2 years. Trevor Lawrence, if the light really did go on for him last year and he's going to play at that level, that propels him that propels him into that group as well. Jalen Hurts, if the Eagles are right in this giant offseason project of let's Operation make Jalen Hurts target the middle of the field, and that actually gets the best version of him out there, Jalen Hurts has shown really good play. Dak Prescott, who gets kind of maligned in these discussions, I mean, he had a stronger statistical MVP case than Lamar Jackson one of the years that he won, right? Like, Dak's capable of leading as potent an offense as anybody in the NFL out there. So I kind of like that, and I think that's...
But he's like Stafford for me, where it's like one good, one down. Like,
but my point
more
is,
of a roller coaster
I think
ride.
that sort of shows you what the NFL is right now, which is like 4 guys that you can be confident in pretty much every single year, and then 12 more guys who in any given year could be as good as those 4 guys, just not 2 years in a row, right? Like it's 12 guys who could be tier 1 quarterbacks, just not for more than a year.
I think that's Jordan Love right there, right? Jordan Love, I thought was good for half a season in 23, and then he down in 24 and banged up, and then better last year. And
up until pending a guy like Drake May, Caleb Williams, maybe Herbert if the offensive line. Suddenly taking that step into tier 1 and just putting, a couple of years together and definitively becoming, all right, I'm a tier 1 guy.
I mean, you can make the argument. I like to compare the era thing, and I've said this before. I think the last era was better for quarterbacks. I think the high-end quarterback play in the 2000 to 2020 range was better. But I think the depth is better now. I think your role...
The game's never been deeper at that position.
On this list, Kyler Murray is 23.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray is a fine NFL starter. Jackson Dart's 24. Tyler Shuck's 26. Like, those guys still have some... They're just in year 2. They have some upside. It is easier than ever to find a starting caliber quarterback. I've said this probably for 5 or 6 years now, and I believe that's true. Finding a starting quarterback, easier than ever. And then I think from Justin Herbert, QB 6 on this list, through Kyler Murray, QB 23, plus some of the young guys, like any of those guys could have high-end seasons.
Right.
But I think the high end of the quarterback play in the last era was better. And I know Mahomes and Allen and these guys are here, but Mahomes is coming off of lesser seasons statistically. Stafford is, if you're honest about it, up and down every year. Joe Burrow has as many good cases against him as he has for him when it comes to, his effectiveness. Lamar Jackson has been, I think he's got the highest highs and lowest lows of elite quarterbacks, of a tier 1 quarterback. He's got the lowest lows, I think, over the last few years. Maybe it's just last year, but someone's going to call me on that. I know it. Anyway, always fun. I do think Sando's list might end up a little bit different from Fowler's list because it's coaching heavier, though.
I think his is a good list, though. Like, I actually think it's the end result of the exercise has produced a very good and very accurate list. Like, again,
It's actually not that different, by the way.
You can argue.
Fowler's.
You can argue one here or there. Like, I would bump Lamar into tier 1. I would take Stafford out of it, and I would draw the same line of 4 guys. But, I mean, that's a pretty small gap, right? Again, even lower down. Like, I think broadly speaking, it's correct. Again, the interesting thing to me is the crazy outlier votes. Like, where Rodgers came in at 19th in this list, collectively. And one guy.
You can't have him as
one guy thinks he's as good as Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
Someone did not understand the assignment at all. Hi, Aaron Rodgers, first ballot Hall of Famer.
He's
got to be tier 1.
I say this as the one guy who voted for Justin Herbert for MVP last year. But that's still, even in that world of context, that's a batshit outlier vote.
When you compare if Fowler had Allen 1, Mahomes 2, Sando has that flipped, although Allen and Stafford are tied for second. So he goes Mahomes 1, Allen 2, Stafford. But then Fowler had Stafford 3, Burrow 4, Lamar 5. That's the same.
We're buying high on Stafford, which is the other thing. It's like, for if a guy is going to have an up and down career, I mean, you're buying on the up. So it makes sense for him to
Dak and Herbert are 6-7 on both lists. 6-7. May 8 on both lists.
Really?
Goff is tied for 8th with Sando. He's 9th for Fowler. They just all talk to the same people.
A lot of ties.
Caleb Williams was tied for 11th on Sandoz.
Caleb Williams
for Fowler.
Caleb Williams being tied with Brock Purdy is kind of funny, just stylistically.
Oh, really is. They had the shootout against each other.
Yeah.
Capable. At what point does Purdy get respect as a top 5 or 6 guy?
Never. He's never going to get that respect.
Yeah.
I mean, he needs Shanahan to leave for him to get that respect, which is probably not
He would need to put up the same numbers post-Shanahan.
Yes.
To get that respect.
Right, which is unlikely.
Or do it with the Substation kills all of his receivers and he still puts up that.
The 49ers deal with 20% of their roster injured for the entire season, and Brock Purdy still plays like a...
Deshaun Stribling leads the league in receiving yards or something like that. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Brandon Ayuk comes back.
Good show.
They might need him at this point.
Oh, what if they...
All is forgiven, Brandon.
Please,
please return to the
need
team.
you to come back.
We're actually in need of your services right now. And by the way, Washington doesn't want you, so...
We got football tonight, kind of. Hall of Fame game, Panthers-Cardinals.
You see the poster they put out?
Carson Beck versus Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. That's the poster.
Is that the poster?
Yeah. It's not even one, like normally you get these situations where like the quarterback is so bad we're going to put a different player on there, but they can't because Jeremiah Love's not going to play either. Like there's nobody there to put on the poster. So we have to roll with Carson Beck.
I tell this story a lot. I don't think I tell it that much. What year was the Hall of Fame game? Who's the Bills Washington State guy that had all the hype?
Bills Washington State guy.
Not Connor Holiday.
Connor Holiday was fun. The Luke Falk?
No. He played I think it was Washington State, but he played the Hall of Fame game for the Bills one year. And that was the year we were doing we were training ourselves and double checking our grading. And so we watched the game 5 times. And went over it. You and I would compare our grading, and we compare it with Kay, and we compare it with Ben to really hone in on the grading process. And that was the game that we watched a million times. And the dude was great. 2013, 2014. I gotta find it now.
Okay.
That's what it reminds me of, though.
What's his name? Josh Hermsmeyer was tweeting out this article from Neil Payne, which was analyzing it, how much starters play in preseason and the change down the years. And basically, turn of the century.
Jeff Toole.
Turn of the century, and actually for the first 10 years of the century or so, starters were playing an average of basically a third of preseason snaps, which makes sense, right? The way it used to be.
Yeah.
That's down below 10% now.
Wow.
Driven by teams like the Rams, who don't play anybody in preseason. But 10% is now how much starters are playing. And the Hall of Fame game has always been the lowest starter featuring. So basically nobody's playing tonight.
And you it's fun to see other players and everything, and they get to battle for jobs. But I also go in how many jobs are actually available outside of injury, right? I mean, you always want to play well, but I think most teams go in with 7, 8 spots that might be up for grabs legitimately, depending on how you play. They've got 80-90% of the roster.
Yeah, but it's also because there's such a drop off on the offensive line. So many of these reps are meaningless now in a way that I don't think they used to be. I think before it was a lot easier for the second and third string to show well and win jobs because there were real reps. The second team offensive line wasn't a disaster. Now, the second team offensive line is in the game, there are offenses that just don't function anymore. And so you don't get a read on the running backs because they don't have anywhere to go. Every running back is looking like Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
You don't get a read on receivers because the ball can't come out to them. Certainly not in rhythm. Certainly not the way it's supposed to.
Plus,
can't get a read on quarterbacks. Right. Yeah. Can't get a read on the quarterbacks because of all those things. And you can't really get a read on defensive linemen because they're going up against turnstiles. And so nobody has they're meaningless reps for everybody now. That to me is the bummer. I think I could get behind just about the idea that we never see starters and it's more the bottom, 30 guys on the depth chart we're watching, and let's embrace that. But I think it's now that if we could just somehow normalize or stabilize the offensive line, I think preseason
play
would
7-on-7.
Yeah, maybe that's the way to do it.
7-on-7. I still love joint practices, though, watching the starters get after it. That's a big part of that was like a cause, chicken and the egg too, cause and effect, but way more joint practices now than ever. That's where the starters are getting their reps. It's a lot more controlled. All right, man. Good stuff today. A lot of fun. We've got. We'll go back to 3 shows next week. We could do it. We'll have plenty to talk about, right? Football-wise, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 a.m. Going forward for the rest of the season. Football's back tonight. Enjoy the Hall of Fame game. We'll see you again Monday, 9 a.m. More. Check the mic.